Popularized by its famous slogan written in the 1960s, the state of Virginia features famous landmarks and tourist attractions. One of those attractions is Virginia International Raceway, which broke ground in 1957 for what would become a coveted American circuit. It retains most of its classic features, save for the old oak tree that marked turn 12. This weekend, VIR hosts the 7th and 8th round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America season, where drivers face an old-school course with immense natural beauty in the state of Virginia. Fanatec GT World Challenge America is one of 4 international series with championships in Asia, Australia, and Europe, each contributing to the global reach of the SRO. This weekend's journey to Virginia is the 4th of 7 events across North America, marking the midpoint of the season and highlighting its fierce championship battles, with a finale event at the racing capital of the world in Indianapolis.
Welcome to VIR, Virginia International Raceway. Paul Newman famously described this place as heaven on earth. But what could be more heavenly than 30 drivers pushing the limits of their GT3 machinery around one of the toughest tracks in North America? Speaking of tough tracks, let's say hello to our Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe drivers, who will face a similar beast this weekend at the Hockenheim Ring. But now, let's get you caught up on what's happening here in America. This weekend will already mark the halfway point in this 2024 season, and the battles are already raging in both the pro classes and Pro-Am. Now, if you take a look at the pro category, it is the right year to be Wright Motorsports, as that 120 Porsche has the lead over the ST Racing BMW. In Pro-Am, it is a battle between ST Racing and Turner Motorsports. A dominant weekend from either of those teams would give a nice cushion headed into Road America. And as we get ready for more racing here in the United States, you may have seen the release of the 2025 Fanatec GT season will return right here to Virginia International Raceway. But what makes this place so special and heaven on earth? Calvin Fish has that answer.
Well, this is going to be a fun one. Our Fanatec GT track preview from VIR. I've got a pilot here, Neil Verhagen, drives a BMW, the ST Racing number 38 with Samantha Tan. Neil, we're going to touch about 160 miles an hour here this weekend in your GT3 machine. Talk us through this brake zone down into turn 1.
Yeah, so hard on the brakes coming into turn 1. Super important to maximize the entry of the track here. And then to get a good exit to stay about middle of the track is where you want to be about to open up turn 3 as much as possible.
I assume with tire deck you may be slipping a little bit deeper out of that corner as we get further into the tire run. I assume compliancy over the curbs here is really important.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Over these curbs here, you want the car to be as compliant as possible, and then you want to touch the brakes and you want to use all of this curb in here to open up this section as much as possible.
That's left hook. I'm going to set up for what they call the snake. It really twists and turns here. Again, using all of those curbs. Then Neil, I feel these climbing S's here is one of the most beautiful ribbons of asphalt in all of North American motorsport. What are your thoughts approaching this in the race car?
Well, these are all flat here. In the road car, it's a little bit more tricky. I need to be a little bit more careful through here, but this is all flat through here. Even this right-hander here is flat in the GT3. Key is to stay as much to the right as possible to open up this corner here, as the exit here has a high curbing. It can catch you out and put you in the grass.
Then it really slows down here. You've got to be so careful through this initial part as we head into Oak Tree. This is turn 11. Gets really marbly and gray on the outside there during race conditions.
Yeah, and again, a port and exit here you want to get. As we light up the rears there, didn't get the traction that I was looking for out of there. I'm a bit used to my GT3, but this is a super important exit coming out of here, longest straight on the track.
Yeah, this is Madison Avenue. Going to be touching about 160 miles an hour here as we get to the braking point. Tricky brake zone here, Neil. It's got curves to the left, then tightens up as we tip into the roller coaster.
Yeah, as you said, difficult braking zone. In the GT3, we're at the 1 mark there, so much later than in the road car here. And then here we go into the final section, cool section. You have to use all of the curbing here to open up the corner as much as possible.
Like being a slalom skier, having to hit your gates coming through here. This is Hogpen, final corner on the lap. Wow, what a ride. VIR, it doesn't get any better. 3 1/4 miles, 17 turns, super challenging. Neil, great ride, mate. Good luck this weekend in the races.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Welcome to a sunny summer Sunday here in Alton, Virginia for round 8 and race 2 of the weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Kyle Heyer joined by Calvin Fish alongside me. Amanda Busick is in the pit lane, and Ash Vandelay with the Twitch watch along here. And Calvin, blue skies today, very different from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, very much so. More of a level platform for these teams and drivers to kind of plan for the race here this afternoon. We're looking at a car there that's trying to go 4 in a row in terms of a streak of wins that began at Circuit of the Americas about 2 months ago. Big midsummer break, but they have not lost their momentum coming in here. And this is a squad that's really done great things this year, continues to lead the championship. We also saw a new winner yesterday for the first time, so that was really cool to watch.
That was in the Pro-Am Championship there with Tom Sargent in the 32, bringing it home yesterday. As we continue to watch some great battles here at Virginia International Raceway. But it's sunny down there on the pit lane, and Amanda Busick is going to tell us how it is down on the pit lane before the race.
It's sunny and crowded down here. Kyle, take a look at this crowd that's joining us here at VIR as we celebrate race number 8 in this 2024 season. Drivers are starting to show up. There was some highlights in yesterday's race as well as some drama. I did catch up with Robbie Foley and Neil Verhagen ahead of this race. We'll talk about more of that as well. But when you look at VIR in this facility, it is a historic, tough track here in North America. It's had a bit of a reboot of late, thanks to a special team that has been assembled here in Virginia. And when you look at the work that goes around it, you often see a little woman with a little blue piece in her hair walking around the place, picking up trash, parking cars over in the parking lot. But she has a rich history here, and you're going to find out why.
Always great to be back here at VIR and visit with Connie Nyholm, who's the CEO and co-owner here at this facility. Connie, where did this amazing passion for racing begin in your life?
Hey Calvin, it's nice to see you again, and with people like you and everybody at SRO here, how could I not be passionate about what we do every day? As I tell everyone, I have the best job on the planet. Starting in May '98 with the resurrection of VIR with Harvey Siegel, my founding partner, and we opened the main full course and divided into north and south and had our few support buildings, and we've been growing ever since.
We're here to race, obviously, this weekend with SRO competition, but talk about what else happens here on these facilities.
Oh, there's so much going on. We've attracted 14 businesses to our industrial park campus just by opening our doors to people like you and SRO. Skip Barber opened their global headquarters back in January. We have 59 new member garages, 12 villas under construction in addition to the 12 we already have. We renovated all the lodge rooms and pit lane suites last year. I mean, it's been a constant source of growth and improvement. And stay tuned, because in another year or two, there's more on the way.
Well, there's two customers that you have to really satisfy. One is the fan who comes through the door to watch the racing here this weekend, but the other is the racer and the racing teams. And what you've done here with the infrastructure, the safety improvements, a new pit lane over the last couple of years, everyone's really enjoying the improvements, it seems.
Yeah, pit lane was a massive undertaking and a very enjoyable one to have such a great delivered product in the end, because it was up and down and narrow, and it was just a mess. So now we've got a good professional pit lane. We've either replaced or supplanted a lot of our geo-approved fencing, added a lot of curbing, widened the track for better passing in areas, and it's just a constant source of improvement. Every crash we learn from, so if anyone ever sees anything they'd like to talk to us about, I'm sure they will.
And just like in racing, you need a great team around you, I imagine.
I have the best team in motorsport, thank goodness, led by Sir Kerrigan Smith, our president and COO. We have been very busy hiring additional staff over the past year or two, deputies for all of our directors. We now have very strong number 2 positions helping us plan forward through the winter so we can always open bigger and better after each year of learning.
Well, Connie, the facility has never looked better. Congratulations on everything you're doing here.
Thank you, Calvin. Come back, come often, and bring your friends.
Are continuing down here on pit lane. You got to give it out to Connie Nyholm, who is also a big supporter of women in automotive and motorsports. We appreciate your support there, Connie. Well, we've been teasing the highlights of what's been happening in Fanatec GT Europe this weekend. They are battling out at that beast of a track known as the Hockenheim Ring. You know, the Mercedes won in race number 1. We won't spoil it for you in race 2. Take a look.
Let's look at the highlights then. There were many of race 1, which began with a very quick starting Porsche up the inside of Dennis Marshall off the grid. but he got roughed up in the course of that first lap. So as the cars turned their way out of turn 1, it ended up with an early battle between Ben Green and Lucas Auer, with Dan Harper right there as well. Ben Green getting squeezed out wide at turn 8, and that allowed the Mercedes to go through. Dan Harper getting up and past as well. Alessio Dono by this stage was long gone up the road, but eventually Ben Green had to give way. He got roughed up a little bit coming into the stadium and fell to 4th as the pit stop window opened, but it was a slow stop for 71 Ferrari, and it rejoined down in 4th place and lost its class lead as well. For the race lead though, side by side, Maro Engel and Dries van Vooren, big battle between the two of them. The BMW briefly ahead from 19th on the grid, but then it ran wide and handed the lead back to Maro Engel. And wanted to regain the lead, the Mercedes was not for losing it, as Tom Fleming worked his way up past Sam de Haan for the Silver Cup lead. There was one last chance for Vantor to have a go coming through the Spitzkehrer hairpin, but Maro Engel had everything covered, and as the BMW wagged its tail, Engel got the drive off the hairpin and was able to come through and score the race win. 1 second to the good as the checkered flag flew at the end of race 1 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup here at Hockenheim. A win for Lucas Auer and a delighted Maro Engel. So let's look at the highlights then of that race. It began with Luca Engschler blasting away from pole position, and down towards turn 1 the Lamborghini was ahead. It was a great first stint by Engschler despite the challenge of Riccardo Feller. We had a big spin for the number 25 Audi, which went around Paul Everard having a spin, but it was all seemingly self-induced. He rejoined a long way back, the car coming home a little bit further down in midfield come the end of the race. Up front it was the Lamborghini that held sway, and further drama as the number 93 Ferrari slithered out wide, possibly with contact from one of the Porsches. Tom Gamble was then given a big whack and turned around, with Ivan Klimenko getting involved with him. And Riccardo Feller had a failure, having bounced wide over the curb coming out of the last corner. Exit 1, potential race winner. Pit stop window open, but it was a slow stop for the leading Lamborghini. A drama around the front right corner cost them well over 20 seconds against the opposition, and it was therefore Ben Green in the lead of the race as further battles continued, including David Pittard and Gilles Magnus. They were absolutely toe-to-toe, and then nose-to-tail. The damage did to the Aston Martin brought that into the pit stop with the rear screen having popped open. Other battles went on, including Cesar Gazzo trying to get himself up past the Benjamin Goethe McLaren, but Thierry Vermeulen was able to get past both. Up front though, Charles Weir fended off Lucas Auer, and neither could catch this car, the charging Ferrari of Ben Green and Konsta Lappalainen, victorious in race 2 here at Hockenheim after a great weekend of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup action.
Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe really putting on a show there. Of course, this is part of the SRO Global Series here in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Some great pre-grid festivities here that are put on at each and every race. A grid walk that includes all sorts of fun activities. There's the presentation of colors from the Turnstall High School JROTC out of Dry Fork, Virginia. Of course, the drum line from Drum Logic from South Boston, Virginia here this weekend as well. So really cool to see the fans on the grid experiencing all the drama of the pre-grid. And of course, there's those Drum Logic out of South Boston giving us a show here before we get into the pre-race festivities. But for the rest of the pre-race festivities, it is about time to get things started down there on the grid as we get set in just a few moments for the national anthem presented by Christy Wilkins out of Yanceyville, North Carolina, in just a few moments' time. Well, as we wait for this here in just a moment, of course, our 90-minute Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Race 2, is coming up. And as I mentioned, these pre-race festivities, all the fans and teams and drivers gathering on the grid, really bringing gravity to this event at one of North America's most historic tracks. Let's head down to Christy Wilkins from Yanceyville, North Carolina, for the presentation of America's national anthem.
Oh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Excellent presentation of America's national anthem as we get set to go racing here in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, race number 2. Of course, this season so far, we've had a couple of rounds. This is our round 4 of 7. But of course, we've had a lot of racing up until this point. Let's have a look at how we got here to VIR.
The long wait is finally over. It is time to start a brand new season of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS at Sonoma Raceway. We are racing in 2024. Here they come up the hill. Adelson makes a nice move up the inside to grab second away from Luca Mars. The fight is on further back in the pack, though.
Colin Brown is now 16 seconds behind Jeff Burton for the Pro-Am lead. There we go.
Here comes Verhagen up the inside.
Foley will try and go with him, keep the pressure on that BMW. 2 BMWs now on the Pro-Am podium.
Yep. Domination for Wright Motorsports. Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson kick off the season with a comprehensive win here at Sonoma Raceway. We look to the flag stand, and there's the green flag as we enter the VP acceleration zone. The pole sitter, Elliott Skier, pulling away side by side there for the second spot with Verhagen and Brown as they charge up the hill. Advantage to Brown on the right-hander. Keep an eye on the tire carrier here. Sets down the tire, but it doesn't sit completely on its side. It rolls away right into an active pit lane.
Yeah, and then he realizes, he looks down, he's like, where is it? And it's right in the middle of pit lane, so that's a problem.
Checkered flag waves for Wright Motorsports. Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier win race 2 at Sonoma. Good afternoon, it is a glorious day in Central Florida. Here to give the green flag, Charlie Bell from Pete's Foreign Auto Shop. He waves the green flag and the race is on. The battle is for the lead as they fan out 3 wide further back, but Pompelli charging around the outside in the RS1 Porsche. He's bringing the fight to Philip Ellis. Edmund swings wide. Burton will let him play through. Edmund to the overall lead with 26 minutes to go. This is high commitment stuff. If he's gonna do it, hanging around the outside, yes he will. Oh my goodness, Burton sees him coming, lets him through, but that's gonna cost both of those guys a ton of time. Trent Hindman out of Sunset Bend for the final time, takes the checkered flag. Hindman and Pompelli win overall, ahead of Elliott Skier by 7/10 of a second. Peeking out of line, the race control group will take a look at that, but for now, the green flag waves. We are racing. Race number 2 in Sebring underway. It is Neil Verhagen who leads the way into turn 1. Elliott Skier holding on to the second spot. Then it's Foley and Brown. That's the top 4 with Trent Hindman not too far behind for RS1. For Neil Verhagen, who'll have to put his head down and try and recover from the mistake. Two Porsche 911 GT3Rs roaring down to turn number 3, but there at the apex, it's Pumpelly who's able to make the move stick. Spencer Pumpelly to the points. Whoa, big moment there for Luca, and contact damage to the front of Philip Ellis's car. Spencer Pumpelly and Trent Hidman caught the late call up to join RS1 this weekend in Sebring, and they reward the team with a sweep of the weekend here in Florida. Greetings and welcome to Austin, Texas and Circuit of the Americas. We are racing race number 1 here at Circuit of the Americas, and it's a drag race down into turn number 1. Side by side, Agostini has it, but he goes wide. Oh, and Ellis gets tagged by Mars. Everyone scrambles. Adelson goes around too. It's George Kurtz off into the kitty litter. Looks like Agostini was able to recover. He leads the field at least for the moment, despite running long in turn 1. Oberlin on the left-hand side of the screen, Udell to the right in the run up to turn number 1.
Yeah, BMW may have just a little bit more straightaway speed, but Alec just holds that track position nice and tidy. Really nice racecraft there by Alec Udell, and great racing with Bill Oberlin as well.
This is the run into the downhill braking zone for turn 12. Skiers got it, and Choxy punts him just that little bit. That dislodges the diffuser just that much more. We wait to see, and indeed the checkered flag waves. Tommy Milner, Alec Udell, and DXDT Racing give Chevrolet the first win globally for the Corvette Z06 GT3R. We are racing here at Circuit of the Americas. Up the hill, Neil Verhagen leads the charge, up and over those bumps. Foley able to slot in second. The fight is for the third and fourth positions. Further back, cars scrambling every which way, but so far clean and green. How much will she fight for this? This is for the overall lead, but not for class position. Udell really wants to get this done, and he has accomplished it quite quickly. Looking for the checkered flag, and Alec Udell, DXDT Racing, Tommy Milner, they win.
There's a great look at how the season has come along so far in the first 3 rounds of the championship. But round 4 of the series, let's have a look at what happened yesterday in race 1. And it all began with the 91 Regulator racing car running down towards turn 1 alongside the 63 from DXDT Racing. Pretty frantic start with challenging conditions off the racetrack. Some contact with Alec Udell in the 63, and then a lockup for the 08, a ABS issue for that car after a spin elsewhere on course. That was basically a day-ending issue for that car. After the green flag, after full course yellow, the 91 restarts and tries to run away from the 28 Pro Class car. Later in the event, it was Turner Motorsports and ST Racing side by side, a little touch once and twice, sending Robbie Foley for a ride into the Armco at turn 3. On the restart again, it was DXDT Racing in command with Wright Motorsports right behind, and then more fighting into left hook where the 08 and the 63 and the 91 all got together and caused some damage to those cars. As we headed down on another restart once again, the Acura NSX of the 93 Racers Edge Motorsports car gave a run for its money in the Pro Class podium, and the battle in Pro-Am continued with the 38 trying to climb towards the front and catch Kyle Washington and Tom Sargent in the 32 GMG racing car. At the front, though, it was the 63 DXDT racing car that took victory in the Pro category. And for the first time this season, it was the 32 of Tom Sargent and Kyle Washington picking up a Pro-Am victory in the Pro-Am category. Let's head down to Amanda and hear from Alec Udell, one of the winners from DXDT Racing yesterday.
Hey guys, back here on pit lane, and we were talking about some of the drama that happened yesterday on track, and part of that was between the BMWs of Robbie Foley and Neil Verhagen. Both of those guys have talked after the race. Robbie Foley told me that Neil Verhagen did take credit for what happened on track and apologize. Robbie said he is a little sore today, but there was some agreeing to disagree, and I'm sure you guys can talk about that more during the race. I imagine drivers see things from their perspective, but racing The race control obviously saw it as Neil Verhagen's fault and issued a drive-through penalty, and now we go racing for race number 2. But one of the cars that we saw a lot of in those highlights, both in the season recap as well as in race number 1, is that Corvette that keeps winning here. 3 wins in a row so far. And Alec, you have another opportunity to do it yet again today. We talked yesterday about what the ceiling for this team is, but what's the intention of this team?
Excuse me. The intention is just to execute at the best that we can each race. So wherever that puts us, it puts us. And today we're starting from pole. We've got a great driver behind the wheel with Tommy, and then I'll get to hop in and take it to the end. So I think for us, again, it's just to execute as best as we can.
When you look at the competition around here, there's 5 other manufacturers that are gunning for you. Is there a benefit that the Corvette holds over those guys?
I think it's really all comes back to the team. Obviously, the team at Corvette, the team at DXDT, the team at Pratt Miller, they put together a great car, and there's a great pairing between all those groups, and we've shown well with the car, and we just want to keep doing that.
Well, we'll get spoiled today on this back half of the race in race number 2. It is the pro drivers in most lineups that will be in the race today. On the front row, you will have 2 pro cars right behind them, 2 Pro-Am cars. Brian Sellers in that other Corvette that's going to have an opportunity to see what damage he can get done before he passes it over to Scott Smithman. But one of the beautiful parts about VIR are all the options around the racetrack for camping. Our Kyle went to find out some of the fun that exists here in these parts of Virginia.
Hey race fans, I'm here at the VIR campgrounds with a crew that's ready for a weekend that's more fun, louder, and faster than your typical weekend. Why bring the racetrack to your living room when you can bring your living room to the racetrack? Nothing beats the sound of waking up to GT3 cars in the morning. And grab your tents, grills, and hammocks, and maybe someone else who also knows how to set up a tent too. Imagine this, you spent the entire day watching GT cars blaze around the racetrack, and now you're hanging out with your friends around a campfire, exchanging stories, and who's got the best s'mores technique. Spoiler, it's probably not Cal. Whether you're a grill master, a marshmallow incinerator, a campfire song aficionado, or a soccer player, there's space at the GT campsite for all. The thing I might be the most jealous of, though, is watching the sunset here in the campgrounds at one of the best racetracks in the country. I think I might have to camp here next year.
Well, it is almost time for the start of race number 2 here at VIR. It is the 8th race of this 2024 Fanatec GT season. And yesterday after the race, a lucky fan ended up by the podium and ended up with a special hat given to him by the race winner, Tommy Mildner. And for the words that every driver wants to hear, we have Mr. Christian Rose.
Drivers, start your engines!
Engines are fired for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, race number 2, the 8th race in the championship, and effectively the pivot point in the season. As far as the championship is concerned, Calvin, there are so many stories that we have been following all season and all weekend long, but most notably, I think it's that DXDT Racing number 63 that has just set the benchmark as of late.
They really have. I mean, the cars displayed tremendous potential in speed throughout the course of this year, and now they're really clicking. They're in top gear, so to speak, in terms of the execution of the races as well. So they're going to be tough to beat, but Elliott Skier starting alongside. He wants to get back to the winner's circle. They swept the opening rounds at Sonoma. But we've seen kind of a trend and a pattern this year of the opportunity to sweep 5 out of the 6 opportunities between the 2 classes, Pro and Pro-Am. 5 times we've seen sweeps. So typically, if a team is having a good weekend, they're able to really capitalize on that and get maximum points for the weekend. But this is a team who's certainly looking to do that. They had a sweep at Sebring. They need to bounce back here. Great to see Spencer Pumpelly, Trent Hinman back on the grid here today. They always have a good go at it. But I think the real story today will be how much ground Robbie Fielding can make. There you can see him just coming around there. Number 29, Turner Motorsports BMW. They did it to go to a backup chassis. Robbie should have been starting from the Pro-Am pole on the front row here today, but because they switched chassis, they have to go to the back of the grid. So he'll have speed, but it's a tough level of competition to cut your way through here.
Well, it's been a fantastic day so far with blue skies. We talked about it earlier, Calvin, but about 31 degrees C and a very light breeze. The humidity's dropped a bit. It is warming up now, but yesterday the track was dry for most of the event, but it was really the grass and the off-track areas that were the biggest challenge.
It really was. I mean, this is a very demanding racetrack, and with the amount of water that we had over the course of 36 hours or so, I mean, this grass that we're looking at right now, very picturesque, but if you're running off at speed in one of these race cars, you literally go for a big ride and hopefully avoid hitting something. We saw several cars not have that much luck, so it's treacherous, but now the ground is dried out a little bit. It should give the drivers a little bit more room to escape should they make a small mistake, but even so, big commitment around here, big consequences.
It's a very fast racetrack, 17 turns at 3.27 miles, and we saw, the traction zone, you call it, leaving turn 12 there, and you're right along with Neil Verhagen. It's just such a critical area to get the power down this long Madison straight. This is a really big, long straightaway that leads into a pretty decent passing zone, but if you don't get fully alongside Calvin, it's really hard to make that overlap.
Yeah, 3 really high-speed sectors. You come up through the climbing S's, you're touching about 152 miles an hour here into the roller coaster. You're hitting the brakes at about 160. Same thing down the front stretch into turn 1. But these braking zones, as you can see right here, they're curving, so you're not in a straight line. And that really puts a real onus on having a good platform underneath you, and it also makes it tricky when you are side-by-side racing someone.
Yeah, we got a look at an onboard of the 32 a moment ago, and onboard now with the Racer's Edge Motorsports car. Tom Sargent and Kyle Washington looking to repeat their successes from yesterday, getting their first win of the season, and they're going to start up near the front as well in P3 overall and leading that Pro-Am category.
Yeah, it was a brilliant victory for them yesterday. Kyle Washington was just super pumped to see his young co-driver bring it home. He's under a lot of pressure there, but he hung on nicely at the end.
So as we have our drivers already rolling on their second of 2 pace laps, have a look at our starting lineup. It's Tommy Milner for DXDT Racing in the 63 Corvette on the front row, alongside Wright Motorsports in the 120 with Elliott Skier. We just mentioned Tom Sargent in the 32, rolling off 3rd in the Porsche, and Brian Sellers in the sister DXDT Racing car rolls off in 4th. Then in 5th place is Neil Verhagen in the number 38 ST Racing BMW, and Aaron Povaledo in the number 50 in position number 6. Then 7th place is Adam Carroll with SS Racing with Mercedes-Benz of Austin in 7th, and Zach Veach for Racer's Edge Motorsports in position number 8. Moving on back to the 5th row, it's Varun Chokski in the number 28, the ST Racing car starting 9th, and Trent Hinman kicking things off in 10th in the number 85 Pro Class car for RS1. Then it's Jeff Burton for Regulator Racing in 11th place with that reverse driver strategy, and of course Robbie Foley, who's got a mission to make it all the way to the front. And Calvin, that is a tall task to move your way to the front, but in a 90-minute race, there is time to do it.
There is, and that car's been really performing well. So this is the backup car. This is the car that his teammate Justin Rothberg campaigns in GT America. He had a win and a runner-up finish with that car here this weekend. I think Justin Pace in that car seemed a little bit stronger than the other chassis. So even though Robbie's obviously disappointed, he saw, as Amanda alluded to, in terms of that big impact he had yesterday, and certainly lost the opportunity to win. He's going to be up on this wheel of this BMW. He wants to get it to the front. They need a little bit of help. Ideally, a Porsche or 2 would aid their cause, but even so, he's got a lot of pace there.
Yeah, yesterday we saw a handful of full course yellows that really played into the strategy for some drivers and really didn't help for others, Calvin. So what are we looking to today as far as getting a 90-minute race of green flag running? How will that be different as opposed to the yellows we got yesterday?
Well, I think for Robbie Foley, for Jeff Burton, they do the reverse strategy by starting Philip Ellis, the pro, in that driver lineup for Regulator Racing. They didn't want the yellows yesterday, but they got them. But they need to get the same amount of yellows today to keep Jeff Burton close to that pack, let Philip Ellis do what he does, which is drive the car really quick and maybe look for another podium run.
As we said, it is sort of a pivot point in the championship season. We've got Road America up next and Barber Motorsports Park, and then we finish off the season with the Indianapolis 8-hour, which is a double points event, but there is still time for championship rivals to make ground on their opponents. And the field works their way down through Hog Pen, turn 17, towards that VP acceleration zone as the Toyota GR Super safety car heads for home. It's Milner and Skier up all pro class front row at Virginia International Raceway. Race 2 for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, as the field is held off And here we go, green flag, we're racing at VIR, and the 63 and Tommy Milner fires out. The sister car has a big run on the 120, down towards turn 1.
Yeah, Brian Sellers there, an excellent run in the second of the two Corvettes. Tried to sort of thread the needle there, but that was thwarted there. Sargent to the inside, can he get inside? Elliott Skier, as they accelerate off of turn 2, is really tight here, got to coexist. Sellers up to the inside, takes away P3.
Elliott Skier had a look at Tommy Milner as well, but couldn't make it stick. Everybody juking and jiving for track position here into left hook. This is a challenging, tight sequence. We saw some trouble here yesterday.
Sellers P3 overall and has the lead in Pro-Am. There's the 28 machine. Varun Choksi, the car was really quick here yesterday. Bill Auberlin led a lot of this race.
Through Snake now and into the climbing S is one of the most spectacular features here on this racetrack at VIR. Hard to do it side by side, but Robbie Foley's already on the move past RS1.
Yes, he's past the Burton machine, and now he's got by Trent Hinman as well. Now he's on the tail of another BMW of Varun Choksi, so he's working hard here to get to the front as quickly as possible. Up front, great start there by Tommy Milner. Elliott Skier under attack. Sellers, an awesome start there leading in Pro-Am.
Neil Verhagen past Aaron Povaledo. Now he's got Tom Sargent in his crosshairs as we begin this long run up Madison Avenue towards the roller coaster corner. On board now with, this is the 32 of Tom Sargent chasing that sister Corvette, the 08 of Brian Sellers.
160 miles an hour as they then go to the brake pedal, slowing things down, tipping it in at the roller coaster. Then the speed starts to ramp up again. It's like hitting slalom gates coming through here, hitting your marks, hitting those curves, but not too abruptly.
Down here, tire pressure still coming up to temp on this opening lap. 32, feeling maybe a bit of pressure from the 38 of Neil Verhagen in that ST Racing BMW. First lap complete, and it's Corvette out front. Tommy Milner trying to grow that gap to Elliott Skier.
This is Tommy's local race. Family still lives nearby here, so he knows this place like the back of his hand. Made his pro racing debut, had his first pro racing win here, so he has fond memories here, and he followed that up with a great victory here that he crafted together with Alec Udell. So DXDT looking really strong, leading both classes early aboard their Corvettes.
And Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier, the two drivers piloting the Wright Motorsports Porsche, came in as the championship leaders in the pro category, and they would really like to keep that. Of course, if the Corvette DXDT Racing guys keep earning points at this rate, they could catch them by the end of this season. So it's a bit of defensive driving as much as it is as offensive at the moment.
Yeah, tail end of this pack here, Choksi is doing a great job of defending from Robbie Foley. Foley's right there. Hinman is coming with him as well. Big pressure on young Varun.
Yeah, BMW versus BMW. And this is challenging, Calvin. Sometimes when you've got a different car than that you're chasing, you can find an advantage with the way that the cars make speed, but same manufacturer, it's going to be challenging to find a way past.
And it's always an interesting dynamic when you got the blend of the two class cars. The pro entry with Choksi, who he shares that car with Bill Auberlin, then Robbie Foley running in Pro-Am with Justin, so maybe you can play nice together.
All racing for different things at this stage in the championship at the midpoint of the year. It's the 50 of Aaron Povaledo. They didn't even get that car off the grid yesterday, if you recall, Calvin, some electrical problems, but it's running 6th right now, so not a bad start for them. 6th overall, 4th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, that's a team that's really making a lot of progress, getting their arms around a GT3 car, debuted it last year, and just shown great pace. Actually led one of the practice sessions here earlier this weekend.
Could they be a factor in that Pro-Am battle? I would think so. The 93 is off, turn 17. That's Zach Veach behind the wheel at the moment and trundling along in the grass, and he'll get back on course, Calvin.
Such a difficult corner there. It's called Hogpen. You come through that corner, if you just hit that curb a little too hard, it'll run you out wide, and then you try to feel the edge of the road as Robbie Foley kind of elbows his way through. He's got to be on the attack here. This is exactly the same part of the racetrack we had the moment yesterday with Neil Verhagen as they battled it out. Robbie was sent into the tires.
Big swing left and back to the right from RS1's Trent Hinman. Seeing opportunity with these two BMWs scrapping to maybe throw his hat in the ring there.
Foley is through. Next car up ahead of him is the Irishman, Adam Carroll. Yes, is racing, having a strong weekend here, a good performance. Unfortunately, had a wheel issue during the race yesterday that cost them a good run.
Talking about how perhaps the life of the wheel that they were using was perhaps a bit past its prime, and there's all these basically teeth that engage with the wheel that had sort of worn out over time, and it just wiggled its way loose and popped off, and thankfully it was right next to the pit lane. But let's have a look at what happened to the number 93 of Zach Veach down through Hogpen here. Taking this lap, jumps over the curb, then just kind of gets it wrong, Calvin. What do you make of that?
Yeah, just carrying a lot of speed. Not sure it's necessarily the curb, but just like the car, a little bit of oversteer there that Zach had to try and catch, and there's not much room around this racetrack to do so. But fortunately, as we said, the grass a little bit drier than it was here yesterday, so not so much of a ride. He's able to recover and continue.
Back down into roller coaster, a several story drop to turn 17, and Tom Sargent would really like to find that magic again for GMG Racing. It was such an emotional victory for them yesterday. Kyle Washington fighting back, tears in his eyes there. Brand new car, brand new livery this weekend as well. They were celebrating in a big way, and they've got some pressure from Neil Verhagen mounting here into turn 1.
Yeah, Kyle's really stepped up his game. He's worked hard. He's running in multiple championships this year to get extra seat time, and he really set the table for Tom to go and do his thing. But he's under a lot of pressure there at the end, but he held off for a brilliant first victory.
Well, let's head down to Amanda Busick in the pit lane for more on the number 50.
Well, as you see Rosh West there on, or Aaron Pavolato there on track, I was just talking to Rosh West, who said that they originally thought that there were battery issues yesterday that left them out of this race. Actually ended up being a faulty injector when they got that Mercedes back into the pits. The engine was flooded, but they would not have known that on pit lane, but good to see that car contending here today.
That's tough. So again, it was one of those situations where it seemed like they were just trying to chase anything they could find, Calvin. And it's hard when you don't know what's going wrong to diagnose and fix it on a hot pit.
Really tricky. But yeah, fortunately they did get it sorted out. It's now displaying the sort of pace that we saw earlier in the weekend. Fighting the steering there through Oak Tree. Really low speed corner, about 55 miles an hour apex speed, but they just launch it. Then this long undulating Madison Avenue straightaway.
Beauties of GT racing is the balance of performance and how all these different cars make speed in different ways. And this is such a long straightaway, Calvin. Which of the cars seems to be the best on this stretch into roller coaster?
Well, the BMWs tend to always have that little edge, not by a bunch, maybe a mile or two an hour, which is critical because it kind of takes the pressure off when you get to those brake zones. But the draft effect is huge here. But up front, I wouldn't say this Corvette is necessarily the fastest car on the straightaway, but around this racetrack, it's really planted. They were concerned about tire degradation, so that's going to be a factor if we do go on a long green flag run today that we didn't really seem to have yesterday with all of the drama.
Just allowing the car to stretch its legs. And this 63 team has been so solid. Let's have a look at Race Vision, powered by AWS. And this is the circuit performance, showing us how sometimes cars are different in different speeds in different places. But here, right now, the 63 is the fastest car everywhere, Cal.
Pretty complete, right? And the cars always look good. It just hugs the road. It's built like a mini prototype. The technology that's now being incorporated into these latest design GT3 cars is sensational. And Tommy Milner did all of the research and development, all of the driving with this car. He didn't do a lot of racing last year. He was really just pounding the test miles out. So he knows this car better than anyone and certainly showcasing that skill set right now.
He has a lot of history with GT Corvettes over the last handful of years. And this was a fairly sizable departure for Corvette to have that mid-engine platform. So there's a lot to learn as Elliott Skier pushes the limit on corner exit there, dropping the left rear tire in the Virginia clay. But, you know, this 120 is not quite keeping pace with the 63 in the early stages here.
They're not, and they have the championship lead, but they can hear those feet coming right behind. 3 wins already since they debuted together. Alec Udell and Tommy Milner, they're leading right now, so still a long ways to go in this championship season. Skier and Adelson have to keep the pressure on.
And just behind it's that sister car to the 63, the 08 of Brian Sellers, DXDT Racing. And of course this car sort of debuted before the 63 with Brian Sellers behind the wheel and Scott Smithson paired with him, and kind of testing and tuning the car at a couple tracks around the country and helping get this program ready to go for the pro category.
Yeah, and Brian, so much experience, so much speed, so many championships behind his name, but he's having to adjust, runs a BMW in another championship here in North America. So every other weekend he's switching gears to this Corvette platform, and just a great experienced driver, so much speed still, but also a great mentor for Scott Smithson to just really bring him up to the next level.
Another look at the new e-Boost livery on the GMG Racing Porsche. Great striking colors on that. Of course, e-Boost Super Fuel, the energy drinks, partner with SRO America here as well, and it's just a really great looking car that works its way up the snake and up into the climbing S's, which is such a fun section, when you're standing trackside, you can just hear the revs climb as the cars get light over the crests.
Yeah, we were able to enjoy that Fanatec GT track preview. Neil Verhagen aboard his regular road car, which is an M8. Must be nice to be a youngster and a factory pilot getting given one of those M8s to drive on the street every single day. But just really showcased the speed that you come up through those S's at. You finally slow things down for turn 10, down a gear, and then whistle into turn 11, where you really have to arrest everything in terms of the speed of the race car and your mind to really be so disciplined to get through this low speed corner and then launch it once again.
And Robbie Foley has caught Adam Carroll. He had passed Runchowski a couple laps ago, but we saw that battle sort of finish. But now he had to set his sights on the 19S's racing with Mercedes-Benz of Austin, Mercedes AMG, and he's closed that right down.
Yeah, Robbie Foley, so much experience here, so much speed. Had a pole here last year in a one-off that he did for Turner Motorsports with Vin Barletta. Then he should have been starting from the pole here today. So the BMW is well suited to this racetrack, but Robbie's really quick here. Conversely, Adam Carroll's visiting VIR for the very first time.
As we watch the 29 chase the 19, pulls up alongside, and again, these two are battling in the same category together. So a pass for position on the outside into turn 1, but doesn't have the grip out there to make the pass, so he's going to try to tuck up underneath through Horseshoe.
That was nicely judged there. Robbie could see that Adam was going to be pretty vigilant there and trying to resist that pass. Just timed it perfectly, just to slow it down, tuck the nose back in, get the clean run to the inside. That was nicely judged.
Immediately back to defense through NASCAR Bend. RS1's Trent Hinman still having a look at Vrunchowski. That's also a pass for position if he could complete it, and that would be for 3rd in Pro and P9 overall at the moment.
Been so impressed with some of the rookies this year. We talked about Justin, what job he's done alongside Robbie Foley this year, but Varun as well, under the tutelage of Bill Auberlen, one of the most experienced GT drivers in our field, BMW legend. And what I've noticed, not just so much impressed with their speed, but how calm they in these pressure situations with much more experienced pilots around them and just resisting the challenge.
Yeah, Bill Auberlen, one of the, I think the winningest BMW GT driver, at least in North America, probably globally as well, if I had to guess. But having a look at the 93 of Zach Veach, we saw the slide and spin at turn 17, and running a couple seconds off pace, Calvin, and I wonder if he'd gotten some grass up in the grill, maybe clogging the cooling on that car.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's doing anything that's really affecting the performance of the engine, I would think that John Maraghi wanted to try and get that car on at pit lane, stay on the lead lap and get it cleaned out, because you don't want to run risk of overheating this engine.
A twin-turbo V6 under the rear glass of the Acura, and battle for 2nd starting to formulate. This is the leader in Pro-Am, Brian Sellers, in the blue and green Corvette, and 2nd place in Pro with Elliott Skier.
All Brian is trying to do is just focus forward, just trying to get as far down the road, separate himself from the Pro-Am pack as much as he can, and give Scott Smithson a little bit of a buffer there to work with through the 2nd phase of this race. Talk about that pit stop window. There's a maximum drive time of 50 minutes, so we expect these pros who are on board in the Pro-Am entries to stay inside the car, and if you've got that reverse strategy going, you're going to try and get that AM driver out. And the opportunity happens with 51 minutes and 5 seconds to go in this race. You can come into pit lane, serve the minimum stop time, and then you'll be good to go.
As we watch this Porsche and the new Corvette Z06 GT3R battle, I have to think about the development of this new Corvette with that mid-engine platform, which is a huge departure from the front-engine rear drive layout Corvettes have long had, as opposed to that Porsche, which has just been over decades and decades just refining and refining pretty much the same kind of philosophy with that kind of rear mid-engine platform.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think everyone's really enjoyed this. Scott Smithson looking on, just looking at the data, looking at the screens to see what his co-driver is doing here, just staying nice and calm and cool and collected. Not as toasty as it was earlier in the weekend, but still a pretty warm day here in Virginia.
Lots of drivers talk about the varying cooling systems and how sometimes they'll leave it turned down a bit to maximize the performance of the car, but under full course yellow or on a pace lap, you might run it for a bit just to cool yourself off. Let's go back to the fight between Vrunchowski and Trent Hinman, 9th and 10th overall moment. Battle for a podium spot, though, in the pro category up on the front straightaway.
Yeah, Vrun's doing a really nice job. Trent's trying every trick in the book here. He's a young man who's used to winning a lot of races and championships, ton of experience now. Looks to the inside. That was really tight. Varun judged that nicely. Didn't absolutely close the door, but recognized he could then just roll speed. But Trent is looking pretty feisty here. Will he make an aggressive move here? Looks to the inside. That's a tough one. This next corner, left hook as we call it, is becoming more and more popular to dive down the inside and try and get all over those curbs and make a move.
It seemed like Trent Hinman was trying to force Varun into a mistake just by showing the nose there. Maybe force Varun to look in the mirror and maybe miss an apex.
Yeah, and that's what we say. These young drivers are just, they don't seem susceptible to that sort of pressure. They just get on with the game and just say, I don't care how many championships you got under your belt, how many race wins. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to keep this possession and turn it over to my teammates and try and keep the car on the podium.
And Trent gave it a shot there through NASCAR bend and left hook, but falls back into line. As Varun Chokski and Trent Hinman continue their battle. Just at the tail end of the top 10 overall. Off the distance there's that number 19 of Adam Carroll. Sort of in no man's land at the moment, trying to keep touch with Robbie Foley, who continues his charge. And just watching Foley's times, Calvin, last time around was 7/10 quicker than Aaron Povolato and a good bit quicker than Verhagen and Sargent as well.
Yeah, and as we expected, that car had massive speed potential for Robbie Foley. Now he's got into some clean air, running very competitive lap times. He's only 2/10 off the fastest lap of the race, which is held by our leader, Tommy Milner, right now.
85 is not going away on Chokski, though. We saw how much of a lunge he took into turn one last lap around. We'll see if he'll do the same again, deep in the slipstream here. Now the front straightaway, and it's Robbie Foley closing in on Povolato. Last time by, another 3/10 gain, but Povolato picked it up a bit.
Yeah, and Aaron's got a lot of experience. I really love what he's done by forming this team with Roche West resources and partnership. They're building a great group there, and they're getting stronger and stronger every weekend against some of the biggest prep teams in North America.
19 just ahead of this fight. It's a Pro-Am car as these two still fight for their Pro Class third position. And I thought Trent would have a run at Varun into turn one, but I don't think he took the same risk this lap as he did the last one. I think part of the experience that Trent has will tell him that now we're in 12 minutes to go. There's still plenty of time to make this maneuver, not to force it perhaps, but we're getting closer and closer to that pit stop window.
Yeah, we certainly are. As we said, that opens up with 51 minutes and change to go, so we're still about 21 minutes away from that opportunity for the AMs to get out and get their pros on board. But I think the nice thing for Varun, that BMW does have that little edge in straightaway speed, so that takes a little bit of the pressure off despite someone getting a good run on you from the previous corner.
And Robbie Foley, have a look at this. Green in the last 3 laps to Aaron Povolato. 200ths, lap 7, another 6/10 on lap 8, lap 9, another nearly 3/10. So he has just been chunking away that differential between himself and the 50.
Yeah, when you start at the back of the pack, it just gets tougher, right? I mean, typically the fast guys are at the front, and as you inch your way forward, every position gets tougher and tougher to make. Aaron's doing a really solid job here, but there's another 3/10 on that lap, so Robbie's inching up on him.
And despite Sargent, Verhagen, and Povolato all running personal bests, I think Foley is still perhaps a favorite to get up onto the podium here today. Side by side through turn one, here comes Trent Hinman, waiting no longer. He's going to get past Varun Chokski, see if Varun can respond.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of argy-bargy there. He's close a couple of laps ago, as you mentioned, Carl, and you expected a cut and paste maneuver that next lap, but finally gets the job done down into turn one.
He'll focus forward now on driving through the rest of the Pro-Am field, because the next Pro Class car is Elliott Skier up in second place. They might be looking for the pit stop sequence to maybe play some strategy and gain some track position. Up into the climbing S's here, and now Hinman's got clear air. Look how much distance he's put on the BMW. And again, to your point, that extra mile an hour or so of straightaway speed, you can use it in a defensive way, not only an offensive way. And so if you're fast into the passing opportunities, which are turn 1 and turn 14, you can really kind of be a cork in the bottle, so to speak. And once that pressure builds too much and you're through, it's free flowing for Trent Hinman.
It certainly is, and that was Varun's teammate Bill Oberlin there, sitting calmly on the pit box for ST Racing. 2-car operation, of course, this year, running the 38 and the 28. I think in this mid-season break, they've had a good chance to go through this 28 car. It's been a little bit sharper here this weekend in terms of its performance. Bill earlier in the weekend, he said, yeah, I think we're back in lockstep with our sister machine in terms of how quick the cars are running this year. They seem to struggle there for a couple of rounds in the championship, so I'm kind of mystified by how they had to go in such a different direction with the setup on the race car to achieve speed.
Robbie Foley closing the gap to the 50 of Aaron Povolato, and he's closed it to about a car length now through Horseshoe and into NASCAR Bend here, about 2-3 car lengths. Shallower entry into NASCAR Bend for sure.
Robbie's able to carve these corners a little bit tighter, more efficiently. Beautiful flow and rhythm through here, but again, as we talked about with Neil, you really got to have a car that's compliant and be able to eat those curbs up a little bit, straighten out some of the radius as you come off these corners.
Snake section, especially what they just navigated, there's lots of curves there, but you try to drive it as straight as possible, so that when they gave those extra curbs, they installed those a handful of years ago. It just widened the track a couple feet, and they make it even straighter than they did before.
There's the challenge up through those climbing S's when you're that close to the car in front of you. You're just really reliant. If they have a little bobble, it's so hard not to overreact. Aaron is really charging turn 11. He's a little bit wide there. Can Robbie take advantage?
The tires, the Pirelli's chattering across the surface. Bit of understeer there for the number 50, and Robbie Foley now deep in the slipstream up Madison Avenue.
Yeah, he's pulling that draft. I'm not sure if he's close enough this lap. Looks to the inside, and then he makes it.
Seems like Aaron also might have helped concede that spot. Knew that running side by side into a roller coaster doesn't often end well. It's at the end of a long straightaway, Calvin, but it's a high risk place to make a pass because of the way the track kinks to the left. So you're braking and steering at the same time. And we've seen in other races here this weekend how challenging that braking zone can be.
It certainly is. So Foley started in 12th position overall. He's now up to 6th and 4th in Pro-Am. And guess who's the next person up ahead of him? Neil Verhagen. A little bit of a relationship here yesterday.
Yeah, they a little bit of contact, you could say. And I think their goal today, I think both of them would rather not have that happen again. Of course, for the 38, it resulted in a penalty, which they nearly entirely overcame. But regardless, even in instances where you get a little hip and shoulder, it's rare that it ends up better for both drivers. Maybe sometimes one will end up better, but I think yesterday both of them got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I think so. It was really disappointing because that was a great battle going on between those two BMW factory pilots. And I think Neil would like a do-over. I think Robbie ultimately had nowhere to go. He kind of gave Neil a bit of room down in turns 1 and 2, and that wasn't paid back in turn 3. So you live and learn. I'm sure from Neil, he'll say, it's just racing, but at the same time, you got to be able to coexist at that part of the racetrack. There's several areas around this circuit where you just can't be that aggressive.
Trent Hinman, now free of the 28, has reeled in the 19 of Adam Carroll. This is a battle for 8th overall. Mercedes-AMG versus Porsche 911 992 GT3R. And there's Neil Verhagen chasing the 32 on track at the moment, but that 38 car is leading the Turner Motorsports 29, so certainly Robbie Foley would like to get ahead to eat into that gap.
Yeah, and that's why it's so disappointing for Robbie and Justin there that they did lose that great run they had going yesterday, because it was blown out the points a little bit in terms of that gap. But they'll see what they can do here. Maybe Justin Rothberg, he's got a lot of momentum here, had a ton of success already in GT America. Maybe he can perform something magical in the second half of this race.
Verhagen still working on closing in on Tom Sargent. About a second and a half between those two. As Trent Hinman has a look at Adam Carroll from a long ways back into turn 1. Carroll left about a half a lane for him here through Horseshoe, and now I think he's going to pull alongside him, Cal.
Yeah, Hinman's absolutely flying. He's running laps in the lone 47. This is exactly where Verhagen and Foley were yesterday, trying to coexist, but Hinman has been rocketing forward since he cleared around the 28 machine.
Big lunge into left hook there. That was a bit dicey. I think there's a bit of coordination that has to happen here. There are some places on this racetrack that, mathematically you can fit 2 cars side by side, but not at the limit. And if one or both of the cars isn't backing down, you're almost certain to have contact. And left hook is one of those places. You can get 2 cars there side by side, but someone's going to have to take a very suboptimal line to make it happen.
Yeah, you got to compromise a little bit. You just can't be hard-nosed about it, otherwise someone's going to go for a ride. So you got to coexist. You got to give each other a little bit of racing room. It can be great racing. You can go side by side through numerous corners, but if you get too hard-nosed about it, too aggressive, you're just going to send someone.
And with the lack of paved runoff here, it's really an old-school circuit, which I think the drivers like. There's consequence for stepping out of bounds here, which I think drivers really appreciate. But at the same time, in battles like that, we're watching with the 19 and the 85, it can really turn sour if you get too aggressive in too tight of a place. But great battle.
Yeah, I think for him, and now he's got to regroup a little bit. He was flying forward, and then he got this little cork in the bottle once again. Adam Carroll has got a ton of experience, great personality. Saw him at dinner last night. They were talking about the incident that they had yesterday, unfortunately, with the wheel malfunction. But he enjoys his role here with this team and hoping to see more action this season.
Yeah, it was a pretty fascinating situation. The left rear wheel just departed that Mercedes AMG. It's never good when different parts of your car are doing different lap times, but the car went into the pit lane, the tire was recovered, and they figured out that the wheel had been worn out, as we mentioned earlier. So got a new one bolted onto the left rear, and off and away they are going as check back in the battle for second overall. Elliott Skier and Brian Sellers still about half a second apart. But tell you what, Brian Sellers is keeping Elliott Skier on his toes here to stay up second overall.
He really is. Sellers took about 0.4 of a second out of that gap to Elliott on that previous lap. Again, this is not a battle for a class position. Sellers continues to lead Pro-Am third overall. We'd love to get around Skier and then gap Tom Sargent a little bit further before the pit stop.
Well, not only for time, but also just to put another car between himself and Tom Sargent. And the more cars you have between you and the next car in line, that pit stop sequence might go even better for you. It's just more in the way for everyone else to have to navigate.
That's going to be a fun second half to the race when we switch to the co-drivers eventually. You're going to have Scott Smithson aboard Brian Sellers' machine, then you're going to have Kyle Washington jumping in the 32, Samantha Tan in the 38, Justin Rothberg aboard the 29 car, and those drivers are all pretty evenly matched, so be curious to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it's really fun to, in this 90-minute format with two drivers, see how things mix and blend after the pit stop sequence with drivers of sometimes slightly different pace, sometimes they're pretty on the money, and just the dynamics of the race fundamentally change after that halfway point when those pit stops open up. And sometimes it opens up the opportunity for mistakes as well, speeding on pit lane, equipment violations, and things of the sort that can sour your day. So even with the minimum pit stop time, you still have to execute.
Lead up front as we watch the battle for second overall is now 3.3 seconds for Tommy Milner. Just perfect execution, pole position, great start, super consistent lap times, just inching away from the field.
We haven't heard from Robbie Foley in a while, which means that he's just working on the next gap he needs to take down as we go back to Adam Carroll and Trent Hinman in the battle for 8th overall. And again, once Hinman had dispatched Shoxi, he made up ground on Carroll quickly. I think something is similar here too between the 85 and 19, just needs to get the pass done.
He does, and that's a team. So they're running third in the pro class, Trent Hinman, but 9th overall. So, and those pro cars are a long way ahead, about 20 seconds plus. So they're a team that would really love to see a caution come out to compress this field right before they do a round of pit stops.
A little wiggle there from the 19 over South Bend. Calvin, that's a fast area of the racetrack. The track drops away. What are the dynamics of the car doing over a fast corner like that?
Well, the key is to set up correctly. As Neil said on the track preview, you got to be all the way to the right to really widen the radius through turn 10. You're down a gear, you're floating the speed through there. As you said, you're then dropping downhill, so easy to drop a wheel on the exit. And then you got to transition back to the left-hand side to correctly set up for turn 11, and things really slow down at that point. So there's a lot going on when there's undulation and elevation in a racetrack. If you're going downhill, it's taking grip away. It's not allowing those Pirelli P0s to totally plant with the road. So there's a lot going on, big dynamic through those high-speed S's.
The elevation at this racetrack happens in a hurry too. Our next round is at Road America, and there's tons of elevation there, but it happens a little slower than it happens here. Just big, wavy terrain in places. As Trent Hinman, another lunge on the brakes, just offline to be in the rearview mirrors of that 19.
Yeah, that car was really braking well. Trent's demonic on the brakes there, just taking it super deep. I think we didn't really see how he initiated that pass on Varun. SRO, he tried to do it and then eventually elbowed his way through. But here he looks to the inside. Adam's going to let him go.
Yeah, no need to get caught up there. And you just saw the brake lights come on about a half second sooner. And at that point, the 85 had lunged far enough alongside where I think Carroll just didn't feel the need to fight there.
Yeah, and again, two different class cars, right? So you don't want to get too feisty about it.
Run up the climbing S's as the 85 has now dispatched another one of their overall competitors at the very least. And that will still got a lot of them to go, though. That's the challenge as far as where they qualified versus how they're running now.
Trent's got great pace. He's got like the second fastest lap of this race. So just really that qualifying performance has really kept them on the back foot. And now he's a long way away from those pro cars, but his fastest lap is 0.2 quicker than Elliott Skier, who runs their P2. So in case of what might have been, and that's why they really need a yellow to erase that gap that they currently have to the leaders.
Zach Veach has run down Jeff Burton here for 11th overall. These two cars are not sharing a category. 93, we saw him go for a slide at turn 17 earlier, just got it wrong and went for a spin, and now Jeff Burton immediately going defensive here up this back straightaway. The speed the Acura's got, maybe Jeff is helping just facilitate that. Didn't feel the need to fight it perhaps, but just pulled to the right and it stopped accelerating.
Yeah, that was a monster delta there in terms of acceleration run up Madison Avenue, so that Acura's really flying. Shame that Zach had that little bobbling off earlier in this race.
Down towards Hog Pen, this big compression here at the bottom of the hill. And they just need, I think they really could use a full course yellow just to get bunched back up and have another shot at it. And yesterday we had a handful of them, and today so far it's been all clean and green. So they haven't had the opportunity to close the gap after that mistake.
Yeah, well, I think the Acura's always been pretty quick here. They didn't have the best of luck last year with Mario Farnbacher and Ashton Harrison, but they finished just off the podium here yesterday, and they've had pace. And we're pretty bullish coming into qualifying day here yesterday, but the weekend just hasn't quite clicked together for them.
And for Jeff Burton and the Regulator Racing crew, this is the reverse strategy where they've got, you know, in the Pro-Am lineup, the Am driver starting the race, the Pro driver in second, which is opposite to basically all the rest of the teams. Now, yesterday they had a bunch of yellows, and today it's all green racing. But for more on the 91 and Jeff Burton's team, let's head down to Amanda Busick in the pit lane.
Yeah, you guys were talking about that yellow. It happened yesterday on the reverse of what this team did not want to see. They would have loved to have seen it here today, and Philip Ellis just told me, he said, I'll take it whenever. But guys, I want to talk about the changing conditions we've seen from one race to the other. When I got over here, Philip Ellis was holding ice in his hand. It is toasty out here at VIR, so I imagine these drivers are feeling it inside that GT3 machinery as well.
Yeah, John Temper saying 87, real feel close to 100. So yeah, it's torturous for these drivers to get on board. And what Philip Ellis meant, though, a yellow at any point, it doesn't necessarily have to be before he gets in the car. He needs a yellow, but he needs a yellow with some time left on the clock to go to work. Right now, he's about 50 seconds back, Jeff Burton is, from the Pro-Am lead. So that means with about a 50-minute stint, you've got to gain a second per minute. That's not inconceivable with this racetrack. I mean, I'd anticipate Philip Ellis being maybe a second and a half to 2 seconds quicker than a lot of the Pro-Am drivers who are going to be jumping on board.
We'll see how that pans out. The pit window should be opening relatively shortly. And you mentioned the temperature count, the real feel of nearly 100 degrees. That's just the ambient temperature outside. What's it like inside the cars? What temperatures do you think we're seeing?
You just get baked. I mean, a lot of these cars have AC systems and stuff like that to help ease the pain. But I know back in the day when I was racing, you just got baked. I mean, you had cool suits that weren't the most efficient. And sometimes the cockpit temperature's getting up to about 150, 160 degrees. And particularly if you have a front engine car, all of that heat soak that you get, it comes through the firewall of the cockpit, then up into the pedal assembly. And I've been in endurance races where it's like you're putting your foot in a hot fire when you just go to the brake pedal and you got to hold it on there for a long time in a big deep brake zone. So it's pretty uncomfortable, but adrenaline is a wonderful thing that'll push you through some of the thresholds where you just feel like you want to give up. And certainly track position, if you're leading and doing well, aids that cause as well.
Best laps here for Pro-Am on the Race Vision powered by AWS. Robbie Foley quicker than Tom Sargent, Brian Sellers, Neil Verhagen, and Aaron Povaledo, and that's about a 10th quicker than Tom Sargent's time, but much greater than that for the rest of the field. So that 29 is really up on the wheel, and given the pit stop sequence and the driver swap, curious to see how the second half of the race will go for them.
Yeah, the gap between Verhagen and Foley, which is a battle for that final spot on the podium in Pro-Am, was about 4 and a bit seconds when Foley finally got through to that track position he currently has, and now it's down to 2.3, so he's inching up on Neil Verhagen, a little bit quicker than the other BMW at this stage of the race.
Up into the climbing S's, the field works their way. This is such a fun section here, full throttle in a GT3 car, maybe a slight lift right before the turn in to the right to set up for South Bend. But 54 minutes left on the clock here, Calvin. We've got, of course, the minimum pit stop time to start thinking about, but also that maximum drive time, and that's exactly what the 91 of Regulator Racing, they're planning on having the Philip Ellis driver in there for as long as possible.
Yeah, and that opens up at 51.05, just to reiterate that number on the clock. And it's not necessarily the leader who will have the first opportunity to do that. Really just depends on your track position. But you know that the Regulator Racing team are looking at that mark in this race. Just need Jeff Burton to keep doing what he's doing. Nice, consistent lap times. He is so super fit, just right into his fitness. During the winter, he skis literally every day. He's a regular golfer during the summer, big hiker. Several thousand feet in terms of his hikes every day as part of his routine. So even though he's in his mid-60s, he can get the job done in terms of keeping on pace here and not fading in these conditions.
Last 3 laps for Robbie Foley, all quicker than Neil Verhagen in front of him. See what that will turn into here as the pit window will open in a couple of minutes. Elliott Skier feeling a little bit of pressure perhaps from Brian Sellers, but this gap has been fairly constant since the drop of the green flag. One car that is really making its way up into this mix, though, is Tom Sargent.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Suddenly Sellers has got his mirrors full of Tom Sargent, and that is a battle for position. So Tom's done a nice job of managing these tires here, and he's coming on a little bit stronger here in the second phase of the race. We anticipate these drivers staying in as long as possible. So you're going to be looking with 40 minutes on the clock. You're looking at on the screen right now with 40 minutes left in the race. They have to be on pit lane to not exceed 50-minute drive time. So you'd expect Sellers, Sargent, Verhagen, Foley, Povaledo to stay out there as late as possible.
Run onto the back straightaway again, and Sargent last time by 4/10 quicker. That's not a small margin either at this stage of the race. It's only a 10th off of Tommy Milner's last lap. So 32 is running really times that are co-requisite with the overall race leader.
Yeah, definitely seeing a little drop off here in lap times here from what we saw earlier. See, even the leader's about a second off his best, Tommy Milner, and us kind of all the way down through the pack here. So 2 or 3 laps ago when I was analyzing the data, they were running laps in the 147s, and now everyone's creeping in the low 48s, mid 48s. So that's just the heat and conditions that we have here at VIR.
Safety car, full course yellow, as we get the race control message there, and the field, very critical time right before that pit window opens. Not sure what for, but the GR Super safety car is up and running, and Aaron Povaledo stopped by the bridge here between Snake and the climbing S's.
Yeah, some kind of technical issue, we assume. Probably did Control-Alt-Delete. He's waving to someone. There's something going on there. Hopefully there's no smoke or anything. He was pretty vigorous there in his hand gestures there to get someone over to him for some help.
Well, remember he mentioned, the team mentioned that it was an injector issue.
Right.
Wonder if there was something similar where the car shut off. And the big consideration here, Calvin, is this safety car happens at the perfect time for the Regulator Racing crew.
Yeah, what it means is there's a compression of this field. So when pit window opens, Philip Ellis is going to jump on board. He's going to be a happy camper there that he's not got so much work to do. So they've been praying for this opportunity all season long. It's never quite worked out. It's worked to the reverse, in fact, like we saw yesterday with multiple yellows when Philip Ellis had the lead and was trying to create a gap.
Yeah, we see the 50 still stranded there under the bridge. Now, you know, you mentioned that we've seen this. This is what they've been hoping for all season long, and this strategy will work immensely well. But if the circumstances have to match the strategy, right, and they haven't had the circumstances yet, and now that it's come their way, this is a massive opportunity for this 91 team to get a victory in class.
Yeah, because there's a couple of teams that have employed this strategy. Let's not forget about Bill Auberlin as well. He's going to be jumping on board, and the faster of the two drives in their car, so he may be able to move up the order in the Pro class, but particularly in Pro-Am. What they're trying to do here is they're really banking on a yellow for this strategy to work to compress the field. Jeff Burton's done a great job of keeping the race clean. And then Philip Bellis jumps on board, and he's going to be a lot quicker than guys that don't have the experience level, like Scott Smithson, like Kyle Washington. And he may be able to hammer his way through this field here and grab a win.
As far as the rest of the teams here that are sitting on the pit box, and they're aware of strategy that the Regulator Racing team is employing. How nervous are they? Is there anything you can do at this stage to prevent this other than just go out there on the restart and go for it?
Not really. There's nothing you can really do. Just the strategy is falling the way of Regulator Racing right now. But Philip Bellis has still got to carve his way through a lot of the cars here. We're all got to get good, clean pit stops. And the pit window is open. I'm not sure with this safety car out there if they've kept the pit lane closed. We'll try and get communication process with that from race control.
And the 50 car stuck trackside. Amanda's got more from the pit lane.
Yeah, just a rough weekend from this team. I saw Rush West just walking away disappointed from their pit box, but the Mercedes lost a belt is what was told from Aaron Pavaleto.
Thanks, Amanda. Calvin, what could that have been? A belt, but as far as its impact on the performance of the car?
I didn't quite catch the report from Amanda there as we see everyone hit in pit lane, so apologies for that. As we see pretty much everyone coming in, bar Robbie Foley here.
Yeah, so as the field rolls in, the 19s will be the first one to the pit box at the tail end of pit lane, and going into a stop. Here comes DXDT, sort of double stacking in their pit box. Tires going on. New Pirelli P0s. Driver swaps, fuel for BP Racing going in. And this is all executing to that minimum pit stop time, Cal, and it's so critical to get as close to that as possible.
Yeah, and that's 65 seconds. There's no joker second like we had in years past, so you got to be right on the number, and you're allowed to be underneath it by up to 1 second without getting a drive-through penalty. But every 1/10 of a second that you're underneath, there's a multiple of 10. So if you're underneath that minimum stop time by 1/10 of a second, you'll get a 1 second post-race penalty. If you're under it by 9/10, it's a 9-second penalty. Look how tight it is there.
Busy pit lane. And cars rolling on a pit road at 50 kilometers an hour. And again, if you're side by side there, the driver in the right lane, oh, this is not how this is supposed to work.
Yeah, no, you can't do what just happened there with Alec Udell.
Yeah, so maybe they felt that the 32 wasn't at its speed, but does that give you the ability to pass in the slower lane?
No, I mean, if there's overlap, you would assume that Kyle Washington was up to speed there, so that was a bit of a weird one. So it was like a replay on that to just judge that. But essentially, if you've got any overlap, so if the car's coming through what we call, there's the working lane, then the middle lane is the transition lane, and then there's the fast lane. If you're in the fast lane and you have any overlap, the person on the inside has to give it up.
And now if, let's say that the 32 wasn't at 50 kph for whatever reason, is there a judgment call that race control makes where that's ever okay, or do you just have to sit behind the car?
That's a good one. I haven't seen, of all the years of watching sports car racing, I've never really seen someone not up to speed once they're into that fast lane. So
wonder
if Alec Udell can say, well, I was still at the minimum pit speed in the middle lane, and that allowed me to get back up. I don't understand the strategy here by Turner Motorsports.
Yes, Robbie Foley staying out on the racetrack.
Yeah, I just don't see any upside in this because the whole field is going to come around. They're going to be right on his tail. They're going to come in the pit lane at some point, and whenever Justin Rothberg gets behind the wheel, he's going to be behind this complete pack of cars.
All right, so I guess just to make sense of where they're going with this, Robbie Foley is the driver there that's got more experience, so they're hoping to extend the time that he's in the car. But again, with the full course yellow, everyone's bunched together, so there would be really no advantage to this.
Well, two negatives. One is when you do stop, you're going to be behind the whole pack. And secondly, you need to come in while we're still under yellow because the green stop is a lot more detrimental in terms of the time lost to cars on the racetrack.
So we'll see how this plays out. We're out on the safety car, it looked like, so it should be coming back to the restart this time into the VP acceleration zone. And back on the power is Robbie Foley into the pit lane. And, the lights are on the safety car, so he accelerates in, and then Adam Adelson is going to take advantage of it and jump up to the front. So this is an interesting strategy.
Well, essentially, you had the 29 car right behind the 38. So when we cycle things through to really put it in perspective, you've got Samantha Tan now sitting in 6th, and Rothberg's going to come out in 11th with the problems for Aaron Povolato. So it's a definite loss there. So must have been some kind of radio issue, I would assume, because I don't understand. This team is regarded as one of the smartest with strategy, and I don't really see the upside to this.
Yeah, I wonder also, I guess, radio communication issue in general, or if for whatever reason they were prepared down there on pit lane, but I can't imagine with the full course yellow they weren't. So
yeah, once you get towards that number, yes, you intend to stay out for another 10 minutes, but you'd expect that everyone would be there. You'd expect that Justin was on the pit box. I'm not sure if that was caught them out, that maybe Justin wasn't ready to go, something like that, but that's a weird one. We'll have to catch up with the group and see what happened.
So just past the halfway point in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, race 2 from Virginia International Raceway. A full course yellow for the stalled number 50 Schwest Povolato Racing Mercedes AMG. And as we pass the 45-minute mark, 45 minutes to go, and it looks like Robbie Foley kind of walking away there. So maybe some frustrations perhaps, Calvin, as well.
Well, for sure frustration, because Robbie did a nice job driving his way through half the field at least, and was right on the tail of the car that they really want to get around the championship leaders. So that opportunity has not gone well.
Well, for more on the 29's pit stop, let's head down to Amanda in the pit lane.
Well, drivers do have their pre-race routines, and one of those by Justin Rothberg as he had snuck off to the restroom prior to his stint. So when that full course yellow came out, he was unaware of the impending driver change that early. So Robbie Foley in for another lap. But as you can see, the team is having a little bit of a laugh about it.
Well, that's unfortunate, Calvin, but I guess everyone's got to do it, right?
You do. Talk about lessons learned as a new driver in a championship. You know, whenever you're getting close to that window, you never know when a safety car can be sent. And even though he felt that Robbie's going to be out there for another 10 minutes, I'll just nip off. Just really unfortunate timing there.
Lights are out on the Toyota GR Supra safety car, and that means we're getting a restart here with just under half this race remaining. One of the fastest racetracks in North America. Virginia International Raceway. The 17-turn, 3.2-mile racetrack has proven to be a pretty exciting canvas for events this weekend. Adam Adelson and Wright Motorsports lead the way over Alec Udell, so a bit of a swap there on pit lane. And Calvin, before we get this restart, there's a couple pit exit orders under review there, so we don't know. There could still be penalties pending.
Yeah, I'll have to wait and see on that, but here we go.
Really early restart there. The safety car had not yet gotten to the pit lane. That was pretty close, wasn't it? VP acceleration zone. Adam Adelson already on it. And under the start gantry, we're back underway in Fanatec GT World Challenge America. Towards turn 1, Alec Udell flanking the 120. Behind, though, the RS1 Porsche. Spencer Pumpelly trying to make up ground on the 63 by getting by the sister car, the 08.
Yeah, well, Adelson judged it to perfection, but that was really a close call there. The safety car is to be off the racetrack before you pass it there, and he's just entering pit lane. Adelson went really early there, anxious to get going, control this race in the restart.
Big lunge from the 85 of Pumpelly, completed that pass on the 08, kind of parked him on exit there. He's on a mission and on the move.
He is on a mission, making that move, so really nice job by Trent Hinman in setting the table here for Spencer Pumpelly.
Side by side between a couple BMWs here. This is going to be tough. 2 ST Racing cars, and the 38 of Samantha Tan will fall in line behind Bill Auberlin through the climbing S's.
Auberlin up on the wheel. We talked about the reverse strategy for them this weekend. They're in the pro class, so it's not such an extreme strategy play, but up front here. Oh, big slide there by Spencer Pumpelly as he went inside Kyle Washington. Just hangs on to it as they come through Oak Tree.
Just got crossed up, got back on power. You see the background, Philip Ellis having a look at the 93 of Luca Mars. And we're going to be 3 across here. Here comes the BMW up the inside. This is tight stuff down the back straightaway. Contact. That was really tight racing there as the 28 rockets through the field. And smoke there from 2 Pirellis coming in contact, and everybody on it, Calvin, as the clock ticks down, and it's go time here with all the field bunched together.
Yeah, Bill Auberlin may have a few more years on some of these youngsters out there, but he is ready to go. He's charging to the front right now.
That was a dicey moment. That's a fast area on the racetrack, well into the 150-mile-an-hour bracket at that point. 3 across, and the racetrack isn't really that wide anywhere on this course, save for maybe the front straightaway. Philip Ellis making his way around the 19 of Will Hardiman through the first corner.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time to work with here, so he doesn't want to get too feisty, too risky with these moves. So right now we have 4 pro cars running up front, led by Adam Adelson. Kyle Washington trying to sweep the weekend with Tom Sargent, leads in Pro-Am, runs 5th overall.
Big fight behind them as well. Samantha Tan behind Scott Smithson. We're on board now with the Racers Edge Motorsports Acura. That's tucked in behind a handful of Pro-Am cars. And Luca Mars got a lot of work to do before they can start passing cars in their category.
That's a big help for that squad as well. Racers Edge by catching that yellow and compressing the field, because they were a long way back there after the early off for Zach.
Regulator Racing's Philip Ellis on the move through the field. And here up for the overall lead and for the pro battle, Alec Udell is close. And similar story in Pro-Am. Scott Smithson all over the back of the 32 of Kyle Washington.
This is great stuff. So DXDT had the lead in both classes. Right now their cars run in position 2 in both classes, trying to rebound here a little bit after that round of pit stops. It was a really slow pit stop for Alec Udell, 6 seconds outside the minimum. That's why they lost that track position there.
Yesterday, both Corvettes were in position at one point, moving through the order, but the 63 has really been the one at the pointy end of the field. Alec Udell now on the offensive versus the defense he was on early yesterday. In the very opening moments of the race, had a slight collision, tore off some of the carbon bits on the rear of the car, but he is in attack mode right now. So is Scott Smithson on that 32 Eagles car. Sitting there in tow as well. Here comes Philip Ellis and Luca Mars. Lots of passing happening as the field reorders and reshuffles. And a look for third place. Spencer Papelli and Bill Oberlin trying to change spots.
Yeah, Oberlin was really quick here yesterday. Had the pro lead for a lot of this race. And he's been really aggressive here on this restart, carving his way through this field. But as you get deeper and deeper towards the front, you got more and more experience, more and more speed. Alec Udell keeping the pressure on Adelson at the front of the pack. Papelli and Oberlin are tied at the hip for that final position on the podium.
Corvettes hounding Porsches in both Pro and Pro-Am. Up into the climbing S's, it's Wright Motorsports leading in Pro and GMG Racing leading in Pro-Am. It is getting very spicy in both of those categories at the moment, with Philip Ellis getting a great view of it out the windshield. Now he is involved in this battle here, and you can see the lead just up the road.
Yeah, he's up to 3rd now. This is ominous with the pace that Philip Ellis has displayed here every single weekend this year. He's going to be making some moves really quickly.
Samantha Tan dropping in behind the 93 Racers Edge Acura and drops out of a podium spot for a moment. As we watch the run up Madison Avenue here, a couple little clusters of cars, but Adelson on defense here into roller coaster. The Corvette Udell drops a tire in the dirt right to the rear bumper of the Porsche, maybe just the tiniest bit of contact.
Yeah, Adelson is pretty competitive in these situations. He doesn't want to give it up. He's not intimidated at all. He has a personality that believes he should be here now, leading these races. Alec Udell has a lot more experience, but he's just got to be careful here if he does have a speed advantage in terms of how he makes a move here on Adam. Papelli and Oberlin there closing in on this lead duo. It's going to be a 4-car battle for the lead here shortly, as now Washington is feeling the heat from behind. Ellis around the outside of Smithson, just trying to keep it nice and clean, not touch anyone, not incur any penalties, just get this car to the front.
Passes the 0-8 to Scott Smithson in a 3-way fight for the lead. A little tight here with Luca Mars and Smithson side by side, and Ellis has a look to Kyle Washington's inside, but holds off for now. Cars everywhere through turns 4 and 5 and up into Snake.
Yeah, I think Samantha Tan there kind of weaved her way through as well and took a spot from Smithson. Look at this mess.
Oh, Alec Udell has gotten swarmed by Spencer Papelli. Through goes the 85 into second place, giving Adam Adelson time to run away. And the Corvette has dropped to P3, Calvin.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Udell had to try to make a move on Adelson and lost some momentum there, and Spencer just pounced.
This is not what Udell needed. Certainly what Adam Adelson needed, just to get the Corvette off the rear bumper of that green Porsche for a bit, as Bill Oberlin drags the left side Pirellis through the dirt onto Madison Avenue.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. If you're in that dirt too long, you suddenly hit a big bump there and can tear up the rear diffuser a little bit.
Big story for the 32 of Kyle Washington and GMG Racing. It is a drive-through penalty for a pit lane violation, Calvin, and this is huge. They are the current Pro-Am leaders. This will drop them down the order quite a ways.
Well, I wonder if it was a pit lane speed violation because he suddenly leapt alongside Alec Udell and maybe he just got caught for speeding. I'm not quite sure.
I think it was the other way around where he was actually slow. I think Udell passed him in the right lane. 32 was the one.
I wonder if he got there by
see.
speeding initially.
Yeah, that
we
could
obviously
be.
saw Alec Udell come back at him.
Yeah, very well could be. 91 takes the lead in the Pro-Am category as Kyle Washington bypasses the pit lane this time. They'll be arguing their case, but as far as pit lane speed, Calvin, that is measured by a computer. It will know exactly how quick that car was on the pit lane.
Well, Luca Mars has got a lot of pace here. I'll be curious to see if he can hang tough with Philip Ellis. Try and chase after those pro leaders. So Mars is 6th on the road, 5th in the pro class. Ellis, the only Pro-Am car up in the top 6 now.
With Ellis taking the lead in Pro-Am, the focus shifts back to, well, it would be second, but now it's really effectively what's third on the running order because Samantha Tan, Scott Smithson, they'll be fighting for podium spots. Back up in Pro, though, Adam Adelson's got the advantage, but Spencer Pumpelly is closing in, and he's dragging Udell and Oberlin back up with them. It's a 4-horse race for first place in Fanatec GT World Challenge.
Yes, it's a great battle. It's a local track here for Spencer as well. His dad is here on site camping this weekend. Well, I say camping, he's in a very nice motorhome over in the campgrounds, but just watching his son compete, it's a great battle. Spencer's really been on form of late, took a couple of victories just a week ago north of the border in GT3 and GT4 competition, so he's got a lot of confidence coming in here.
And just such a close fight, and I think for Adelson, he would just love if Spencer Pumpelly and Udell would start to do battle and potentially just lose ground. Give Adelson time to sprint away. There's still a lot of time left in this race, just under 34 minutes. So much racing left to do.
Yeah, when you think of the experience level of someone like, put at the top, Bill Oberlin in terms of experience, then Spencer Pumpelly, then Alec Udell, it really puts into perspective the job that Adam Adelson is doing up front. Udell looks to the inside of Pumpelly, not close enough.
This is a great battle here for P2 as Udell tries to swing the long way around and get overlapped there. And Philip Ellis just claimed the fastest lap of the race at 1:46.972. As Pumpelly, Udell, and Bill Oberlin pull their gloves off. Calvin, that regulation, by the way, for the 32 car is it can only leave its pit box when it's ready to rejoin the racetrack and must respect the pit lane speed limit without slowing, stopping, or impeding another competitor. So it might have been the fact that he was a bit slow, and he has now served that penalty.
That's a harsh one. That wasn't like he was stopped. I mean, maybe he's a few K down, so I wonder if he was just initially too quick, then he arrested his speed, and that's when Alec Udell went back by him.
Either way, it didn't sound like it was a straightforward, constantly held speed, regardless of if it was too fast or too slow, but this battle for second is just fierce, and Adelson's got all of it in the rearview camera. As a lead driver in this, if you're Adam Adelson, Calvin, how much are you looking in the rearview, or are you just focusing out the windshield?
Well, a bit of both, but I mean, he's also going to be getting the lap times, but I think this group is really slowing themselves down. Their last lap was 1:48.7. Ellis just laid down at 1:46.9, so that's going to be the consideration for Philip Ellis. He has the Pro-Am lead, maybe the first win of the season in his hands. How much does he want the overall victory and getting at this little scrap in the pro class?
It's a pretty fierce fight with over half an hour remaining. The final third of the race is approaching. Adelson leads down through Hogpen. Spencer Pumpelly, Alec Udell, and Bill Oberlin. I think Udell is quick enough to be leading this race. We saw him putting pressure on.
2 wheels off.
It's a big moment there. Lucky not to pull it back to the right too quickly. It's easy to get off track and then correct and then swing across the road and hit something else. So that's the experience helping him catch, but he's absolutely pushing, trying to keep pace with these top three.
Really is, and that last lap, Luca Mars there is about half a second quicker than these pro leaders as well, so the 93 squad races edge inching further and further forward. We've still got a lot of time on the board here, over half an hour to go, so don't discount that racer's edge machine. You're just seeing coming in the picture shot there, maybe catching this pro class lead battle.
Well, the 28 car went for a wild ride at the exit of turn 17. Here's what happened. Just grabs a bunch of curbing on the inside there and then just kind of runs off the edge. Now, there is a curb on the exit of turn 17, Calvin, but it's not very long or very wide. And if you just misstep by a couple inches, you're in the grass.
Yeah, and that grass kind of grabs you. It's hard to get it back out of there, and you're obviously trying to stay flat out to get down the front straightaway here.
They installed new curbing around this facility back when it was repaved a handful of years ago, and the Exodus 17 is still one of the older, narrower curbs. The gray concrete as you see here, paired up with the yellow and green. It's a very narrow strip, so it doesn't really keep you on the road if you push out too wide. This fight has just been phenomenal. As Udell tries to pick the pocket, a little dirt kicked up there on the entry. He's been doing that a little bit, tracking to the left and kicking up a plume of dust on the braking zone into roller coaster.
Yeah, you can just do that to annoy the driver behind. Just to throw them off their game a little bit. I feel that Alec Udell has maybe got the most pace of this front four, but he's got to try and figure out a solution to get by a very experienced Spencer Pumpelly here.
All the infighting amongst the pro-class cars is going to allow, I think, Philip Ellis to close in a big way. Ellis, again, nearly a full second quicker than everyone ahead of him. Now, Bill Auberlen just ran his personal best lap, and that was a good chunk better than everybody else ahead of him as well.
Yeah, so he's got pace there in that BMW, maybe going to attack for a podium position here. Philip Ellis is going to have a big question to answer here in just a few more laps when he catches this pack. I just wonder if he just wants to settle in, save his tires, and just sit there and cruise to victory in the Pro-Am class. It's never over till it's over, but barring technical problems, he's certainly got the pace to just sit there and not worry about getting involved in this scrap up front.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about the big picture, I think, for the 91 as far as just getting a victory. They've tried this strategy all the prior rounds, and when you finally get it to go your way, you don't want to throw it away, racing cars that you don't need to pass to earn those points. And this is, we get treated to this for the next 30 minutes. This is going to be one of the best races of the year so far. Look left, look right, look left again for Alec Udell. Corvette going to pull alongside Spencer Pumpelly up Madison Avenue here, Calvin.
Yeah, this is going to be at close by the time they get to the brake zone here, side by side. They're nudging at 160 miles an hour. Spencer is in the weeds. Auberlen takes advantage, moves up to P3. Wild stuff there down into the roller coaster.
I think Udell was wide through turn 14 as well. Auberlen pulls up alongside, tucks back in. Here comes Pumpelly. He tried to get back by, but he cannot. They tuck back in line. Elbows out down the back straightaway.
Yeah, crazy stuff here, and it's allowed Adam Adelson to escape a little bit more and increase the lead. It was half a second last time by the stripe. It's going to be a bigger margin this time by.
Adelson just trying to run away from the rest of the field here in the pro class. Philip Ellis continues to have the fastest lap of the race. And Philip Ellis, of course, working his way forward with that fastest lap. His teammate that ran the first half of the race, Jeff Burton, is standing by with Amanda.
Yeah, when Jeff got out of the Mercedes, he said something finally went in our direction. He just told me that he absolutely loves the position that they're in right now. And Philip is sitting behind a lot of action that is happening in front of him with those pro drivers. Do you want him to, or in the pro cars, do you want him to stay where he is or go for the overall?
No, Philip's the fastest guy on track. He's already posted the fastest time. No, I'm not holding him back. If he can go to the front of the deal, go get him, because that's what we want. We'd love first overall. That's really fun. And it's fun being we're the position we're at. We've worked real hard, and these guys in this pit have worked real hard. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it.
Jeff Burton, no reins on Philip Ellis, guys.
Yeah, well, I wonder if Philip Ellis has got the same thoughts, because his lap times have definitely slowed down. Like, he's just pacing this right now, just sitting there and in a spot on this race, kind of in a vacuum by himself, that he doesn't want any part of it, because it can get really scrappy.
Yeah, I wonder if also he can see all this battling ahead of him. Maybe he'll wait for them to sort it out before he goes up there and picks them off one at a time. And
I think if they're nicely gapped, then you can go off and maybe pick them off one by one. But when they're nose to tail, you don't want to throw away a class win to force yourself a little bit further forward in the overall field.
Yeah, I think the 63 and the 63's contact with the 85 is under review, and that's probably not a huge surprise there, Calvin. Let's have another look here at that side-by-side battle up the back straightaway here, Calvin. What do you see?
Well, he got a good launch there. He got alongside Spencer immediately, and I think they just touched, and that kind of drug the cars towards each other. And then you can see Alex a little bit out of sync, drops the left side tires into the dirt as he gets into the brake zone there. And I think he's just trying to get into recovery mode. So I don't think it was a blatant move by Alec over to the right-hand side. I just think that's how close it gets, and they just misjudged the gaps a little bit.
all that has allowed Adam Adelson to maintain a half-second advantage, but now with Udell back up to second place, the 85 has been dispatched back to fourth place in the pro battle. So we'll see if Udell can close back in on the 120. There's the differential.
Yeah, and I think this is what Alec Udell needed. Now he can just really focus forward. I think there is pace in that Corvette. And just see if he can go chase down the green machine, the 120 of Wright Motorsports.
Dust flying on the run down to Oak Tree. South Bend, a fast corner, but Philip Ellis has caught the first of these front-running pro cars. And that's Spencer Pumpelly that he is driving on by. And again, now that they're split out and there's some more gaps between them, I think Philip Ellis is all right with giving them a run, but Pumpelly's gonna fight him here down the backstretch.
He is, and that surprises me. Philip Ellis is just gonna have to let him go. He can't afford to get too feisty here, but that may annoy him enough that he's gonna get more racy.
Back to the inside, down through roller coaster. That's very tight, and the 85 concedes it this time. And Philip Ellis is up to fourth overall. And I think, is there also, you know, an argument to be had for everyone to just tuck in behind Philip Ellis, fastest car on the racetrack? Could Spencer Pumpelly follow him up to the rest of the field?
I think Spencer's struggling. He may have driven the tires off his race car a little bit because he's really sliding around a lot right now, as we see. I think it might have been the 50 car come back out of pit lane.
Yeah, Ross West now behind the wheel as that car returns about 12 laps down to the rest of the field. Up front, though, Alec Udell and DXTT Racing's Corvette Z06 has closed the gap a couple of tenths of a second. Adam Adelson sees this DXTT car growing larger and larger in that rearview mirror every lap.
Yeah, and they're getting larger and larger in terms of the points as well. I mean, they still have a huge points lead. I think it's 65-point lead over the 63 car, but again, every single weekend you keep taking 14 points if you're sweeping the weekends at least, and that's with the 120 car finishing second. So,
and Philip Ellis is still charging right now. Fastest sector one of the race. Now that he's gotten some more clear air, he is still pushing right now, Calvin, not backing down.
Yeah, you can see that he doesn't have the straightaway speed even off the Porsche there, because Pumpelly was able to accelerate him into that brake zone. But I think that may have fired him up a little bit. I think that little bit of contact is, okay, I just need to go and deal with these guys and not be so much in a conservative mode.
I think now every lap he's building his differential back to Samantha Tan as well. So you don't want to get into a scrap, but you could probably afford a little bump and rub here and there. Just can't get turned around at this stage of the race. But you can see those front three drivers very clearly. That's the rabbit to chase. Big leap over the curb, down the roller coaster as well. Have a look at Race Vision powered by AWS. The first two sectors, the 91 is the quickest car on the racetrack. The 63, the second place runner, Alec Udell, quickest in that third sector.
Yeah, and that's remarkable because we saw the speed down Madison Avenue that finishes off that blue sector, the middle sector there, and he doesn't have that compared to the others, so he's getting it done through the corners. But what a season he's put together, coming off a brilliant victory in class at Spa just a couple of weeks ago, and coming off some brilliant endurance wins here in North America. Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, so he's having a magical season. He can't believe it himself, leading another championship over here, but he'd love to get this first victory with Regulator Racing and get Jeff Burton to victory lane.
Philip Ellis just ran again the fastest lap of the race, a 1:46.959. So he continues to lay down absolute flyers and chase down the front three. So with Udell and Adelson, how will they take the 91 once he gets there, Calvin? Will they defend from him or just let him go?
I think I think for Udell, he's going to try and use it to his advantage if he comes up there and see if he can mess with Adelson at all and open up the door for Alec Udell if he hasn't got by him at that point in the race.
So Adam Adelson's had a really nice run in defense today. There's the sister car to the run that's running second overall. That's the 08 Scott Smithson running third in Pro-Am, setting up for a potential podium. But here comes Justin Rothberg in that 29 after the miscue on the pit lane. Calvin, they're recovering, it looks like.
Yeah, timing is everything. Having a bathroom break right when they need you to put the helmet on, be ready to get in the race car is awful irony, but
guess that answers the question, what would race car drivers do when they need to use the bathroom? Well, they miss their pit stop, I suppose. But up the backstretch, Samantha Tan, ST Racing, BMW, doing a nice job, currently in second. And for the overall lead, here comes Alec Udell and blows by Adelson on the front straightaway. And Allison has done a nice job defending, but now he's got to turn it on to offense.
Yeah, that was weird. That's the speed that Allison had. He must have had a bobble or a moment there coming out of Hogpen, I would assume, for Udell to have that speed advantage down the front stretch.
It's opened up the floodgates, though, for Alec Udell, already putting a handful of car lengths on the 120. And Bill Auberlen has closed the gap as well. Here comes Philip Ellis looking to the inside of Auberlen, down the inside into the left hook.
Auberlen just wants to try and stick to Ellis's tail here and see if he can open up the door on Adam Adelson. We talked about that potential for Alec Udell, but Alec Udell has already grabbed the lead before that moment may occur.
Running up towards the climbing S's once more. Now Alec Udell is leading in the pro class fight. They're growing this gap, but at the same time, I'm sure they'd like to win overall as well. The 91 might give them a run for their money here shortly.
But hats off to Adam Adelson. That's a tremendous stint that he's put together here to hang on to that lead. Immense pressure, just kind of seeing him focus forward, let those other drivers scrap out behind him. But I just always felt that Udell had pace in that Corvette. He just needed to get the track position.
Here's a look at it coming down the hill, and was ahead and just made a mistake.
Big slide, big correction there. Just comes off the corner with no speed. He immediately cuts to the right-hand side, but Udell just flies by him.
Yeah, just a big wiggle and just chased it. And leading onto the front straightaway, it's one of the longest straights on the track. It's just the worst possible place to have a slip. We've seen drivers do something like that all over the racetrack, but when it happens leaving turn 12 or 17, that's where it'll hurt you the most.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what it also does, it kind of rattles your confidence a little bit for Adam Adelson. He'll come through that corner, and it's a corner that could really catch you out. I feel it's underappreciated in terms of how difficult it is. You come through there, you're going to try and just float that right inside right front over the curb there, but if you hit it too hard, you're then looking to the right down the straightaway, and you try to gauge where the left-hand side of the road is. Very, very tricky corner.
Requires a lot of precision to get that right. And I think the difference between missing it and nailing it is only a couple of inches once you commit back to the throttle. Adam Adelson did a great job defending from Alec Udell for so long, and now he's got Philip Ellis with Regulator Racing hot on his heels in Burton Lumber Mercedes-AMG GT3.
I think it's been a very disciplined drive by Philip Ellis here. I think he's really thinking of the big picture, low risk passes, plenty of time on the board. No need to take any risk here in terms of getting this class victory.
Back to Pro-Am. This is the battle for third place. Actually make that second. Samantha Tan-Smithson and Justin Rothberg all competing here for Pro-Am podium positions. And Rothberg, again, has had a really good weekend in general. You know, picked up a win in GT America Series yesterday. And, of course, yesterday didn't go so well here in the Fanatec GT race, but he'll still come away with a lot of positives on this weekend. And have a look at this race progression. This is a frustrating way for this graph to look, Calvin, at this stage in the race, but certainly interesting.
Well, they got to first by staying now, so kind of halfway up that little graph there is where the reality was in terms of their P6 overall when Robbie Foley stayed out because Justin wasn't ready to be strapped in. But nonetheless, it's been a roller coaster ride, and we've seen Justin Rothberg really be very poised in terms of defense in races this year. But now it's a different situation where you got to be aggressive to make a move and overtake, as we now see Ellis making a move on Allison down this front straightaway. He's on the left-hand side of the road. He should be able to brake a little bit deeper. I don't think Adelson really needs to fight this one too hard. He's got to really focus now on Auberlen right there.
Yeah, his focus will now shift rearward there, but the of course, the naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 under the hood of that Mercedes-AMG doing some work here. Here comes Auberlen having a look at Adelson deep into NASCAR bend. Took him by surprise there, but didn't get the run on exit to keep the overlap. He'll try again at left hook, side by side through there.
Yeah, he's really just trying to feel out this situation. Went to the inside, felt it wasn't quite enough to commit. So again, that's where the experience kicks in. Recognized it was going to be too forceful to make a move. Could have got contact and sent Adam for a ride. So Adelson is feeling the heat now. He was a lot more comfortable up front when he had that 2, 3, 4 car length lead. Now he's right in the feistiness of this battle.
He's done such a phenomenal job now, but there's with a slip back to second place in class, you really want to stop the bleeding here as best you can. At least maintain that second step on the podium. But Bill Auberlen, one of the most experienced drivers in BMW GT cars of all time. I'm sure he's been in Adam's position many times before, defending late in a race for a second spot.
Yeah, this is 28th year running with BMW. Just amazing record and career, and you can see he still has the pace to fight out for the top spots.
run at BMWs longer than I've been alive, which is just unbelievable. So he runs down the hill. I mean,
what a number on the car.
What a phenomenal career he has had and continues to add to it this season. The 91 of Philip Ellis, though, leaves turn 17. The next car on his list is the overall leader, Alec Udell. You see up in the top left there, Jeff Burton watching along. They have waited all season to be in this position, not only to win the Pro-Am category, but if they were to walk away here winning overall, this is a huge statement because they would have defeated every other team here and some of the best drivers in GT racing.
And this is exactly why they've kind of employed this strategy here this year, as to maybe grab these wins in this type of fashion. So finally, the yellows have worked out in their favor versus against them.
It's all circumstantial, as I spoke about earlier. The strategy will work very well in certain circumstances. They just haven't had the cautions fall the way that they've needed them to. Yesterday, absolutely not what they needed with the handful of full course yellows we had, but today it has worked out. Now Alec Udell in the DXDT Racing Chevrolet Corvette Z06 going for their 4th consecutive victory in the pro category and trying to hold off one of the best there is in Philip Ellis.
Yeah, and all credit to Jeff Burton here in terms of going along with this strategy call, because what it does, it puts him in a very awkward situation. If Philip Ellis starts the race and pulls out a huge lead over the AM drivers, he's then got to try and ride solo, so to speak, with a big gap and manage that. And conversely, when he starts the race, he's not going to out-qualify the pros here on board, so he starts at the tail end of the field, and that's a lonely race as well. So normally Jeff Burton is right in the mix, but with this strategy, normally he finds himself isolated in these race conditions, but he's willing to roll with this for days like this.
This is a team sport. It's a 2-driver lineup. It takes 2 to make this strategy work. You got to keep the car pointed in the right direction on the road. You have to execute in pit lane, avoid penalties, and this is a team win for both of them if they're able to cling on to this and potentially even go for more than that with just under 14 minutes to go. Ellis is still chipping away 3/10 quicker than Udell last time by.
Yeah, and that last lap by Philip Ellis was only about 400 slower than his fastest lap of the day, which is the fastest lap of the race, but Alec Udell has certainly responded as well. He's now laid down a lap time within 1/10 of a second of the fastest lap that his teammate ran earlier in this race. So Alec Udell, now he's got fresh, clean air on the front end of that Corvette, with no traffic in front of him, is displaying the sort of pace that I thought was underneath him. But now he's got a question to be answered as well. How much does he want this overall win versus fighting Philip Ellis here and maybe throwing it away?
Yeah, he'd just like to focus on running clean laps, but it's like driving on the highway at night and someone's flashing the high beams at you. You just can't get them out of your rear view no matter what you do. And Udell is running as fast as he can away from everybody else, but Philip Ellis is reeling him in down into Oak Tree here. It's Corvette versus Mercedes AMG, a very mature platform in the Mercedes AMG. Tons of global wins in this car, and the Corvette many to come for sure. But a brand new car for the 2024 season, proving itself across various championships worldwide.
Yeah, it really has. It's just been, it's a horse for all courses, it seems, because it just seems to have no real big deficiencies. Yeah, we saw it a little bit down on straightaway speed compared to Pampelli earlier in this race, but just seems to do everything well. I think it has really good BOP here in this championship. And right now, Ellis is really putting the heat on young Alec Udell. He's done a great job of stepping up, increasing his pace. But again, if Ellis gets to the inside, how much does Alec want to fight this?
6 car lengths between them, 12 minutes to go. Clicking down the final few laps for round 8. Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Udell, a little mistake down there in turn 1. Ellis pounces, pulls up alongside the quarter panel of that Corvette. They're going to be side by side for a moment here, leaving turn 1. And here comes the 91 Regulator Racing Mercedes AMG. Udell defends in a NASCAR bend.
Both these drivers look like they won that overall win, so they're fighting out. Ellis dives down to the inside. Alex lets him go.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move there for Udell. Tuck in line. And Philip Ellis needs it more, I think, with the season they've had and the amount of times that the strategies have not gone their way. I think it really puts an exclamation point on this event for them to not only win the category, but if they can hang on for 11 more minutes, win the whole race as far as the overall running order.
Let's not forget that Regulated Racing runs under the DXDT auspices, so these drivers are all kind of having a coffee and in their case, sharing an ice cream over the course of the weekend. So they know each other well, but when you get out on the racetrack, you gotta put that to one side and just go fight.
Well, let's check in with Amanda down in the pit lane with more.
Yeah, I'm standing by with the DXDT team, and I was just talking to Tommy Milner of what his hopes are for Alec Udell there, of if you defend that or do you let Philip Ellis through, and he said no, Philip is on a charge here, and we pointed out that ultimately, this is also still kind of a team car, would it be? It's the Mercedes and Corvette, but still under that umbrella of DXDT.
That's a great point. The Regulator Racing spinoff this season is part of this program for Jeff Burton and Philip Ellis. But I think nerves up in the pit box for Jeff Burton must be through the roof right now, waiting to be on top here in this second race of the weekend.
Yeah, it's a lot of anxiety, certainly, to make sure he can bring it home. He's got total confidence in Philip Ellis. Why wouldn't you? The guy's phenomenal behind the wheel of one of these race cars. But you never know what can happen. He's just going to count down these last 10 minutes. Hopefully they don't have any drama. But there you can see the progress since they put Ellis on board.
They've really maximized the area under that curve there since about the halfway point of the race. But how steep that climb is the most impressive thing. Passing traffic, different class cars, everyone racing with different machinery for different motivations, and just an unbelievable drive for Ellis. And now he's just putting distance on just to put a period on it.
Yeah, just, the racetrack, we talk about results, right, and performance, but at the end of the day, to drive one of these machines around a racetrack like VIR is an incredible experience, so just go out and enjoy.
In the Pro-Am fight, still much left to be determined as far as the remainder of the podium. Philip Ellis, though, as we mentioned, leading. Samantha Tan still holds on to second in that ST Racing BMW. Scott Smithson, Justin Rothberg still right behind her.
Smithson's done a really good job. Had that spin yesterday that kind of messed up the computer system in terms of the wheel speed sensors, and he then lost ABS, but he's had a really good clean run here. You know that Brian Sellers is just trying to talk him through this, maintain focus for the last 10 minutes of this race and bring it home for a podium run.
Justin Rothberg, as we mentioned, still the trailing car in this fight, but it's been like this for a while. But all it's going to take is one slip from somebody to really kick this whole thing off again. And this is still glowing embers of a battle, so someone's going to restoke the fire at some point. I mean, one last push to the end. Adam Adelson, though, speaking of one last push, has still got to hold off Bill Oberlin. He wants to stay second.
Oberlin keeps digging deep. Adelson's just been really resilient here thwarting this charge. And the straightaway, see Bill closes in just a little bit. Looks to the inside now, late on the brakes. There could be contact. There is. They're rubbing. Adelson goes for a low, slow, lazy spin.
Oh, that's not what they needed. Neither of those cars needed that. And it's the championship leader that goes for a spin there at turn one off the left front corner of Bill Oberlin. Now, I'll need to see it again, Cal, to take a look at it and see if perhaps there wasn't enough space for the 28 or if it was just optimistic. It looked late to me, but again, it's a fierce fight for a podium spot under 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, well, he's very deep on the brakes. We take another look at it. Big charge down the front straightaway. Adams over there on the regular racing line doesn't really defend, but he's eventually going to carve across towards the apex there, and they're just too close for comfort. Little bump. He almost caught it there, but just a lazy spin. Loses the tail end. Bill is through, but now the stewards will be looking at it, certainly.
Yeah, so the 28 through into second place in Pro, but will it stand? We'll have to see. The 85 will take advantage of that as well, and so will Luca Mars.
Yeah, well, certainly for Mars, we talked about his potential to catch this Pro pack. He's run really consistent, speedy lap times, and I thought by the end of this race he could be in the mix, but he could get a bonus here should Bill Oberlin.
And a quick penalty assessed for the 28 car. Bill Oberlin, drive-through penalty for incident responsibility. That didn't take very long.
No, it didn't. That's a shame because it was a really good charge that he was having going here, but just sort of stuck his nose in there and Adam came across. Contact was inevitable, and it's I thought at one point Adam was going to save it and also save Bill from getting that penalty, but nonetheless, he did go for that spin, and I think the stewards are going to immediately point the finger at you for that one.
So with the penalty for Bill Oberlin, that should promote Luca Mars into a podium position. So with that charge and a little luck, sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. Luca Mars has been both the second half of this race.
Yeah, but let's think about that point swing. For Alec Udell, we talked about that starting the season late. They're going for 4 straight victories. And And coming into this race, there was 65 points behind, but that's going to be a big swing with them winning. And then the 120 car potentially finishing off the podium. That'd be 12 points, so it would be a 13-point swing.
And Adelson and Skier had won both events at Sonoma Raceway, so they've got 2 wins, but they've also had seconds at Sebring and Circuit of the Americas. So, you know, if they finish this off, the DXCT camp will already have more wins than Wright Motorsports camp, just less races total.
Yeah, and this will be the first time that the 120 car has been off the podium. In fact, they had another runner-up finish here yesterday, so still a few minutes to go, but it does look like the 120 is going to see a podium here today.
In Pro-Am, that fight for third still is on. Samantha Tan's just up the road, so it's Scott Smithson versus Justin Rothberg in the closing moments of this one, similar to what we saw earlier, BMW versus Corvette. And really 2 BMWs versus Corvette with Samantha Tan just up the road.
Smithson, really, really nice job. Super consistent, good lap times. Same thing for Samantha Tan. She's really stepped up her game this year. Great partnership with Neil Verhagen that began kind of about a third of the way through the 2023 season when John Edwards stepped aside and is now no longer competing in motorsports. He's taken an occupation and a career change over to private aviation.
28, Bill Oberlin trundling down pit lane at 50 Ks. That's a painful way to spend the last 5 minutes of the race.
Tough weekend. They came in. Oh, look at this.
Luca Mars once more on the podium here in the pro category, but Spencer Pumpelly dangling a carrot here with under 5 minutes to go. And now into the snake as we work our way up into the climbing S's. The one thing that we can't forget, Calvin, is that looking at the race control messages, we saw how quickly the 28's penalty was assessed. The 63 and the 85 incident still has not been finalized as far as any penalties or warnings or things. So it's late in the race, but who knows?
Yeah, I would have thought if they were going to do anything, we would have seen a message up, but maybe they want to look at the onboard cameras to make a true evaluation of it post-race. That's always a tough one if there's any post-race penalty. I'd love to see something as quickly determined as we saw with the 28. The other one, you know, there was a change of position, but I think Alec was already there, and then there was a bump, but it didn't really cost anyone anything.
Yeah, dropped Spencer Pumpelly down, but he's recovered nicely. I know you can't really penalize based on the result of it, more what the cause was, but either way, that battle for second in pro is still going to be pretty hot as we get about 3 minutes left here on the board. Calvin, that should be about 2 laps to go, and Philip Ellis is flying past the start-finish line there as Jeff Burton watches him go by.
Yeah, just as we expected with that track position and with the gaps where they were after the yellow flag, we expected Philip Ellis to step up and take advantage of this situation, which he has done. Brilliant day for the whole group. As we say, Regulator Racing, certainly a strong association with DXDT Racing, even though it's under a different name. So big day for that whole group.
And for the 63 team, if everything stands, you know, they've done a really nice job maximizing their capability. And for third in Pro-Am, here comes Justin Rothberg with a big run on the front straightaway, side by side towards turn 1, Cal.
Side by side, he's in the rubbered in line. He should be able to brake nice and late. Smithson, rightly so, defends that inside line. Now he washed that a little bit wide. That's typically going to happen when you approach the corner at such an acute angle, but Justin's not close enough to take advantage. Bill Oberlin there back on the attack, having served that drive-through penalty, so he's going to try and force his way forward, but he's got a lot of ground to make up to get to Adelson once again.
Yeah, I think it's going to get right in the middle of this Pro-Am fight as well, so elbows will be out with the last few minutes of this race ticking away for Fanatec GT World Challenge America at Virginia International Raceway. And the next round, of course, at Road America, another high-speed, fast circuit, but a very different character in nature. But we're going to see some great fights there as we have today.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see some new entries as well for that round of the championship, and even more by the time we get to Barber Motorsport Park in September. So exciting times ahead for this championship.
Oak Tree for perhaps the penultimate time. Bill Oberlin's got just a couple of Pro-Am cars I think he can realistically pass. I'm not sure that he's going to get to anybody else in the closing moments of this. Here comes Philip Ellis in the 91 Regulator Racing car. White flag is in the air. Final lap around Virginia International Raceway.
Same for Alec Udell with the Pro Class lead. The gap now is up around 7 seconds over Spencer Pumpelly, so no pressure from behind. What a job Alec Udell did. Kind of got involved in a really hefty little scrap there for a while, but eventually broke through and laid down some really competitive lap times. And this really great opportunity for this young man to really showcase his speed and talents as we see this battle for the final podium spot in Pro-Am. Accelerating here, Rothberg down to the outside, Kenny Claire Smithson. Smithson's going to take it in super deep.
Outside of Horseshoe here, the 29 doesn't have the preferred position here. He can't keep the overlap heading into NASCAR Bend, but he has got the 08 on the back foot.
Awesome job there by Scott Smithson, just keeping it all under control. Just took the brake pedal in really deep, maybe activated the ABS a little bit, but kept it all together, didn't wash out wide. Got to keep it together for 3/4 of a lap. They'll grab that podium.
It's a long way to go, though, and there's still a couple passing opportunities for Justin Rothberg. Perhaps the best one already passed at turn 1, but chasing that Corvette Z06 up through the climbing S's, popping out of the mirrors, maybe just as a distraction. Calvin through the S's for the final time.
Yeah, he's going to keep the pressure on. I think the last run will be into that brake zone for the roller coaster on the final lap as Jeff Burton stands by the guardrail, hoping to see his teammate bring it home.
This is a big day for the Regulator Racing crew, and Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton, they needed circumstances. They've had the speed, but today they have the circumstances and they will get it done. Regulator Racing, Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton win in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. They win it at VIR, and DXDT Racing in the Pro category again wins in Pro for the 4th time in a row. Wow.
Great stuff.
What an incredible battle. And then we're not done with this one yet. Podium in Pro-Am. Down the hill for the final time as Pumpelly and Mars finish out the podium in Pro. Samantha Tan will grab second in the Pro-Am fight, and Scott Smithson in DXDT Racing. What a drive by Smithson. Unbelievable drive. And Philip Ellis gets it done. Let's hear from Amanda, who's standing by with Jeff Burton on pit lane.
Jeff, you have worked so hard at this. You were a fixture in the SRO paddock, and you will forever be an overall Fanatec GT World Challenge winner. Jeff Burton, how fascinating are those words?
It has been a lot of work. You don't cry, I won't. Because it has been. These guys have worked so hard, and it's so fun, especially when you can put a smile on a lot of people's faces. And the guy that's in the car right now is as fast as I've seen. This man can just drive a car like nobody else can. And he showed it today, and that was what was fun to watch. After we got first in the Pro-Am, he went all out. We just said, go get it, enjoy it. So.
Well, I think you can see a little bit of a tears in my eyes too, Jeff, but how proud are you of this moment?
Well, I do a little bit of this. I do a little bit. I mean, it's a team deal, there's no doubt about it. But there's so many other people behind us that make sure the car's there and that it's all ready to go. And then I turn it over to a guy that just races like nobody else.
There's a top step with your name on it.
Thanks.
Just unbelievable drive there by both those drivers. And, you know, he said, I do a little bit of this. I think he's shortened himself a bit, Calvin. It's a team sport. Everyone's got to pull their weight. He mentioned the team making it happen. And it really is, I mean, execution is the name of the game.
It really is. There's Erin Grahagan, who's the team manager for both the XDT and the Regulator Racing squad. She pulls it all together. She's actually Tommy Milner's sister, ironically, so big celebration in that camp tonight.
Provisional results for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Race 2 up at the top. Regulator Racing getting their first win in this series over ST Racing and DXDT Racing in the Pro-Am class. See them 6th and 7th overall. But in the Pro category, 4 for 4 for DXDT Racing's number 63 car. Alec Udell and Tommy Milner get it done over RS1, who rebounded nicely from some contact earlier in the race. And same for Luca Mars and Zach Beach, the 93 Racers Edge Motorsports Acura NSX. They climbed back to the podium after having a spin earlier in the day. Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier, for the first time this season, will not make the podium They'll have to move on to Road America to continue their championship advantage. Bill Auberlen and Varun Chokski, not the day that they were hoping for in ST Racing in the 28 Pro Class car, Calvin, with those penalties late in the race for the contact.
Yeah, unfortunate, but you just got to dust yourself off, regroup. We've got a great racetrack we head to next, and a long way to go in this championship. Disappointment for some, celebration for others here today and this overall weekend.
It's been a phenomenal fight, of course. DXT Racing, DXTT Racing 4 for 4. I think it's a phenomenal drive that they've got. If they continue this, I think the 120 team, the Wright Motorsports team, they're going to have to look and see what they can do to find some speed in these closing rounds. They've done a nice job. They were in position today to grab some good points, but just unfortunate with the contact late in the going that took them out of the running for a podium spot. Well, Alec Udell brings the 63 back to Parc Fermé here after the event, and it's going to climb out of this car. It's been a hot day, hard on the drivers. Everyone focusing, trying to execute their plans to the utmost of their ability. With this opportunity here, paired with one of the best in Corvette's racing history, Tommy Milner, they have just done a phenomenal job. DXTT Racing working so closely with Chevrolet to really learn everything they can about this car. Make sure they're measuring points on the car from the same place. Calvin, it's just been a great show to watch.
It really has, and probably an emotional roller coaster here for Alec Udell here today. I'm sure when he jumped on board and there's that little scuffle there on pit lane, the miscommunication there with Kyle Washington. Washington ultimately got a penalty for whatever he did. We'll try and get clarification on that. But nonetheless, I mean, Alec then was in a scrap. You had you know, the 120 machine out front with Adelson doing a great job, and he was feeling the heat from Pompelli and from Auberlen and just couldn't really get into his rhythm. But once he got to the front, then he displayed the pace that car and he is capable of.
Philip Ellis climbing out of the car, and he'll be as excited as Jeff. I mean, he was won some of the greatest races in the world, but I think being a part of this program has got to be special for Philip. Going over, shaking some hands here, probably to congratulate his competitors as well, and see the corner workers, and we wish them a huge thank you as well. I can't do it without the corner workers trackside.
No, a lot of effort goes into these race weekends from the teams, from the drivers, but certainly the racetrack officials, all the corner workers, everyone who makes this event take place. Congratulations to you all. It's a fun weekend.
Helmet is coming off for Philip Ellis. He has worked so hard to get this done. But let's check out what Philip Ellis has to say after an emotional victory for Regulator Racing. And Amanda Busick is down there to chat with Philip Ellis.
Absolutely, Colin. What a year it's been for Philip Ellis. He comes off of that win at Spa, now gets a win here at VIR, and for our paddock regular of Jeff Burton. When you think of what this guy has been on in his journey, and I see you guys spend so much time together throughout the race weekends, how extra special is this moment for you, Philip?
Yeah, this is perfect. I think this is the opportunity we've all been waiting for with the reverse strategy. Didn't quite hope for it yesterday, but today was actually quite perfect. Maybe a lap later would have been nice, but no, it was definitely a fun race. Jeff did a great job as well. And just working hard together, you know, to get us together on pace. We struggled still a bit in Sonoma, and since then it's just been an uphill trend, and it just shows.
We did pop by and talk to Jeff about whether you guys would go for the overall win or not. There was a lot of racing back and forth happening ahead of you. Was there any hesitation from your part?
No, never. No.
An answer you would expect, guys. Jeff, as this moment sets in, how real does it feel?
It really, well, I mean, there's no words that can say how cool this is, you know, and especially the relationship that we've built, and how good of a teacher he is, you know. The guy can really help somebody like me that's just an am doing this, and it really boosts my level of racing.
Well, it took you two today, Jeff. Congratulations to Regulator Racing. And as we move on to the Corvette that picks up yet another win. That's 4 in a row since they made their way to us in SRO, also picking up that first win ever for that Corvette platform. And I know it was a bit racy out there for you guys today. Alec, how did it go from your viewpoint?
I think you said it best. It was a little racy out there, so obviously a lot of stuff happening in the race. I think we're all probably happy that it went a little more green than yesterday, so good job from that side. But yeah, a lot of I'm breathing a little heavier than I was yesterday, but still happy to be here. Tommy had a great stint. Mine was a little less clean than his was, but nice to get the car pass off. You know, just a little bit of, I think, miscues by some other teams that backed us up in the pit lane. Nothing we can really do about that, and then we're just fighting through to the front as much as we could in the end there.
Any expectations as we head on to Road America, Tommy?
Expectations, I don't know. We're not quite as good in a straight line as most other cars, so maybe not the best place for us, but this car does really well in the brake zones. There's quite a few there. The Corvette's been great this weekend. It was great at COTA, so hoping for the same there at Elkhart Lake.
Congratulations, guys. Round 4 of the Fanatec GT 2024 season has come to a close, guys.
It was an unbelievable drive there, and for both Alec Udell and for Tommy Milner. It was a great race here today. Didn't have quite as many full course yellows as yesterday, but there was still plenty of drama. Let's have a look at the highlights from race 2. All began with the run down towards the green flag. A frantic start with the Pro-Am entry for DXGT Racing having a shot here, but Elliott Skier early on giving a run for the money for Tommy Milner. A little bit of argy-bargy, Calvin, as you'd call it, through the first couple of corners between the 85 and the 28. And more drama here as Robbie Foley made his way from the back of the field after a pit lane start. The 50 car, after not making any laps yesterday, didn't complete all of them here, triggering a full course yellow that gave the 91 an advantage. An issue on pit lane forced the Series to penalize the 32 for impeding drivers on pit road. And after the restart here, it was up to Adam Adelson to hold off a hard-charging Alec Udell late in this race as the field battled behind them. On the charge, Philip Ellis worked his way through the Pro-Am battles, and it got pretty frisky here as well as he worked his way through the 08 of Scott Smithson. Little touch here between the 63 and 85 sent Spencer Pompelli for a bit of a ride at the highest speed on the course. Then down through Hog Pen, the big slip for the 120 of Adelson ended his defense of the front runners here. Then the 63 took the lead on this straightaway, and Alec Udell never looked back from the Pro Class advantage, but he did have to look back to find the 91 of Philip Ellis, who drove into the lead right from here. And once Philip Ellis had the advantage, he began to drive away, ended up winning the race. The first Regulator Racing victory. Of course, Alec Udell bringing home the victory for DXGT Racing in the Pro category for the Corvette. And celebrations happening, Calvin. The podium celebrations after a hot weekend with lots of weather and drama. I think everyone's looking forward to spraying some champagne.
Yeah, very much so. Chance to cool down a little bit, get a cold towel and stuff. But Scott Smithson, congratulations, mate. That was an excellent drive that he put together there. I think Brian Sellers will be very proud of their effort, and certainly his teammates here to hold on to that podium position.
Job well done there. Of course, ST Racing, Neil Verhagen and Samantha Tan, second in the Pro-Am category today. And I think they looked like the favorites at times here this weekend, but things didn't pan out for them yesterday, not quite here today as well with the circumstances.
Yeah, just not a weekend there where they were firing on all cylinders, quite honestly. I think when you don't quite have the pace, you end up getting in those situations which get a bit awkward, but they come through for two podium runs, 2 runner-up finishes. And, you know, with that, they increased their points lead from what they had coming into this weekend.
And for the first time, the Regulator Racing drivers are on the top step of the podium. A huge congratulations to Philip Ellis and to Jeff Burton, who has been here for a long time working on this program and getting himself set up to win a Fanatec GT World Challenge America event. Job well done there for our Pro-Am podium. And now they do the hat dance and get ready to spray that champagne and hoist those trophies, what they look forward to doing as many times as they can.
Yeah, so it was the fun part of the weekend, and chance to catch your breath after this week and head off to Road America next month. And I think that's, if not everyone's favorite, one of their favorites. I love going there. The ambiance up there is like a summer camp vibe out by the lake there, and the racetrack, the facility is first class. The race circuit, so much to get your teeth into. 4 miles, some awesome braking zones, high-speed corners, very technical, and good raceability there as the guys celebrate.
Yeah, the last 3 races on our calendar are all very unique facilities. You mentioned Road America. Then our first trip in this capacity to Barber Motorsports Park, completely different. It's a very fast-flowing racetrack, but not the super high speeds that you see at the straightaways at Road America. Of course, Indianapolis, sort of like a street circuit. It's pretty flat, but it has a lot of sharp corners and things of the sort. But with that out of the way, let's chat about our championship standings here in Pro-Am after round 8 here at Virginia International Raceway. It's Samantha Tan, Neil Verhagen leading with 162 points over Justin Rothberg and Robbie Foley, who are running in in second place. And of course, you see Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton gathered a whole bunch of points here today, 87 for that DXTT Racing crew. Of course, great work there by that ST Racing bunch to grab some points anyway and end up on the podium, and their championship lead still remains growing at this stage in the year.
Yeah, I think the Turner Motorsport Group, they've got to be really frustrated where they sit now in the point standings, because they had, you know, potential win yesterday go awry, and then they had a really good run going today with Robbie's blast through the field. And, you know, Justin not being ready to get suited and booted and get in the race car there to keep him out, lost all of that track position. So that points gap could have been a lot tighter here, because I think they had a faster race car than the ST Racing machine here this weekend, but didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them, but they can try to right the ship at Road America next round for rounds 9 and 10 of the championship. But certainly so lots to play out with so much left in the season, as now the Pro Class drivers get set up here for the podium, as looks like the drivers of the Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura NSX GT3 Evo climb up onto the stage. Luca Mars and Zach Veach recovering from that spin, and they will collect a trophy and some champagne in the process. And second place, Spencer Pumpelly and Trent Hinman in that number 85 for RS1. What a job they did today. Scary moment on the back straightaway at nearly 160 miles an hour through the grass, but gathered it back up. And we're just runner-up to DXDT Racing's Alec Udell and Tommy Milner, who win their 4th straight event in the pro category for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. The trophies adding up quickly on the shelves of those at DXDT Racing. But again, here's your Pro Class podium with Racer's Edge Motorsports, RS1, and DXDT up on top. They'll also be looking forward to continuing this stretch into Road America. See the team celebrating there for DXDT, but there's still plenty of work to do to make the gap in Pro fall a little bit smaller. Of course, Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier not standing on the podium for the first time this season, but they remain in command of the championship with a fairly consistent run with their wins at Sonoma and seconds at Sebring and Circuit of the Americas. Hat dance and trophies up for those in the Pro Class podium. And outlasting the heat and the challenges of yesterday, the yellows and the off-track circuit conditions with the grass and the mud and the debris flying around, it was not an easy weekend. And now it's time to spray the champagne for those on the podium in the Pro Class. Celebrations there for all 3 of those teams. And what's great about that is there's 3 different manufacturers represented there. RS1 running the Porsche 992 GT3R, of course, DXTT Racing with the Corvette, and Racer's Edge Motorsports with their Acura NSX GT3. And same could be said about the Pro-Am podium with Mercedes-AMG, a Corvette, and BMW's ST Racing team. Well, with the results out of the way, let's have a look at the point standings for the Pro Championship. Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier add some points to their total this weekend, but not as many as they did earlier in the year. 152 points for those drivers as they lead ST Racing's number 28 team. But the big game this weekend, another 50-point weekend for Alec Udell and Tommy Milner in DXDT Racing. Maxed out points, and they are sitting at an even 100. 4 straight race wins, 2 straight weekend sweeps for that team. First, Racer's Edge Motorsports picking up some points, 93 the total for them over Spencer Pumpelly and Trent Hinman for RS1 with 83 points. It's been an unbelievable race weekend here at Virginia International Raceway, rounds 7 and 8 of the championship. But Road America, America's National Park of Speed, is next for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, rounds 9 and 10 in August.